Welcome to the Cannabis Regulation Commission meeting. Today is Wednesday, July 2nd, 2025. The time is 3:35 p.m. and we are in the council chambers at 200 North Spring Street, room 340, Los Angeles, California. I am President Thyris Mason and I will be chairing this meeting. The following commissioners are present: Commissioners Farmby and Nash, and I would like to welcome a new member to the commission, Adam Bierman. Welcome, Commissioner. Would you like to make a few remarks?
Sure. I just want to say I'm grateful to be here, honored for the opportunity to help and to serve in this role. I am obviously new to this commission, and just want to put out there I'm coming with fresh eyes and a fresh perspective, and my commitment to you all is just to hear you and to learn as much about the issue as I can. Um, I have no ulterior motive. My sole goal is to do whatever I can to try to move things forward and to try to make an impact here. So I appreciate the patience, and to the extent that there's anything you all can share, I welcome any perspective. I welcome any viewpoints, and like I said, please be patient with me, and I will do my best to do what I can to try to help this program. So happy to be here. Thanks.
Thank you so much. We're happy to have you. I'm going to go over some housekeeping items before we get started. This meeting is being recorded, therefore, we ask that when addressing the commission, you speak close to the microphone and only one person at a time. Please state your name each time you speak. This also applies to commissioners. This meeting is being live streamed. Individuals who wish to watch and listen to this meeting may do so by visiting cannabis.lacity.gov. We will be following the agenda order for the most part. Agendas are located on the table by the entrance door, along with speaker cards. Individuals who wish to address this commission must fill out a speaker's card and specify which item or items you are going to speak on. At this meeting, individuals can provide public comment about specific agenda items only. There is no general public comment. Therefore, speakers will have 1 minute per item with a maximum of 2 minutes for multiple items. We ask that speakers state which item or items they are speaking on before they begin to comment so staff can appropriately time them. If the speaker does not specify which items they are speaking on, 1 minute will be provided. Representatives from neighborhood councils who have filled out a resolution or community impact statement with the city clerk which relates to any agenda item will be given time to speak during the item itself. Please provide a copy of the filed statement or resolution to the commission executive assistant. Any neighborhood council representative speaking on behalf of their neighborhood council must provide a letter on their letterhead stating the neighborhood council's position on the matter. Absent any neighborhood council documentation, comments may still be provided during the public comment period. PowerPoint presentations presented to the Commission today will be posted online and made available to the public via DCR's website within 2 business days. Please turn off your cell phones or place them on vibrate so as not to disturb the proceedings. Please be respectful. Disruptions will not be tolerated. I am designating authority to issue warnings for public disruptions to the city attorney in order to preserve decorum and help maintain order in the meeting. If you disrupt the proceedings, you will receive 2 warnings. If you continue the disruptive behavior, you will be asked to leave the meeting. I will go over additional instructions when item 4 is called. We are on item number 1 on the agenda, which is public comment. We will now open public comment. Speakers can address the issue, the commission, on items in today's agendas. The first speaker is Madison Shockley.
Please state your name and which items you're speaking on.
Sure. My name is Madison Shockley, and I'll just take a minute for public comment.
You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Commission. Just take this opportunity to thank you guys for having this meeting finally. It's a long time coming. I think it's been over 4 months since we were initially promised this meeting. And it's critical that we have our voices heard, and looks like a great opportunity to do that today with 15 minutes to speak and have some Q&A. Look forward to presenting during that time, but particularly look forward to the Q&A time for you guys to ask questions. I hope you take advantage of that opportunity to really dig down and find out what's going on. And also want to welcome the new commissioner. Thank you for your comments about your intention and wanting to be here to really make an impact and do everything that you can. And so, yes, we'll be patient with you, and please be patient with us, but not too much patience because we need urgency with the issues that we're facing. So thank you.
Edgar Torres.
President Mason, give me 1 second. I need to assistance with the timer.
Thank you.
I will. Thank you. Please state your name. Sorry, please state your name and which items you're speaking on.
Howdy. Edgar Torres, items 1 and 4.
Please speak into the mic. We cannot hear you.
Edgar Torres, items 1 and 4.
You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I would like to thank you firsthand for holding this meeting and for coming to terms to change. We work with operators throughout the state and throughout the nation, and we see the data. We see LA is hurting on a lot of levels, but these are all market conditions. We cannot regulate all of these, but we can do our best job to hold safeguards, safety nets, do what you guys do very well in other sectors. All we ask is that you help out these operators and come together to a happy medium that actually makes them to the point where they can be competitive in their markets, especially our social equity operators. They are owed this because of their fight, because of their history that they've had. Without them ushering in this business and this culture, we would not have this huge tax increase that we have thanks to this community. So again, I want to applaud y'all for having this. In any way that we can be a sounding board, a data point, we work with the whole state. If you guys would like to see other models that have been tried and proven, more than happy to be a resource. But again, this is about change, coming together, and moving forward as a unit. And I want to applaud y'all for that. Thank you.
Goat Puppet.
Please state your name and which items you're speaking on.
Goat Puppet, all items.
You have 2 minutes.
So let's see, good news. LA begins crackdown on illegal pot shops. Let's give it a hand. The only problem is this was from May 4th, 2010. What the fuck are we doing here, people? You know, Mayor Villaraigosa, I mean, 15 years. And you're going to tax people that have legal licenses for what? You're not protecting their licenses. You know, if you give a franchise to somebody and you make it worthless, why are you taxing it? You shouldn't even have the right to tax these people anything. You should put a moratorium on taxing the lawful pot businesses until you can get this controlled. How about that? That's the way to do it. Then the people will go and use the legal dispensaries more. Right now, You can go to Willie's and Dilly's over there, and shout out here to the sergeant here, I call him the snitch over here, to my left here. Drives a $200,000 car downtown. I don't get it, but I mean, you go down and you buy your stuff, and you get your stuff anyway, right? So stop taxing these people on any of this shit. If you want to tax 1%, until you can get this under control. 15 years. And why do you guys hide from me? Since I was coming to your commission meetings, you moved it over to Figueroa. I'm not going to go over to Figueroa because I don't have permission from the gang to go over there. I haven't paid my rent to them over there. I pay my rent to the gangs over here. So please hold your meetings over here so I can come here and talk to you later about the things I found out.
Thank you. Your
Thank
time
you.
is up.
Asia Allen. Asia Allen.
Please state your name and which items you're speaking on.
Asia Allen, and I will be speaking on item 1 and 4.
You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, commissioners. Thank you for holding this special meeting focused on taxes. It really matters. For the first time in a long time, many of us are feeling seen. But let me be clear. We're not here because things are going well. We're here because the highest taxed industry in California is drowning. Social equity operators are being pushed out of every single industry when it comes to this, from the brands to the retail. We're suffering. We're promised a pathway into generational wealth, and it's generational trauma. We're fighting to survive under a tax structure that is completely unsustainable, one that was never designed for small businesses and let alone equity businesses. We're being taxed 40 to 50%, required to maintain 24-hour security, pay overpriced commercial rent, stay compliant, and still compete with illegal shops. They don't pay a dime. How is this a fair fight? We're losing. Other counties, they've already started to take action. They're cutting taxes, they're offering temporary tax holidays, and they're pausing collection. It's working. We need to mimic that. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We need to study what's worked. And I'm just, wondering what we're waiting for. But at the end of the day, being heard gives us a glimmer of hope. So thanks again for holding this meeting. We need this commission to stand with us and push for a tax amnesty, some real enforcement, and a 5-year tax break for equity retailers who are barely hanging on. We didn't come this far to be buried in bad policy. Please don't let this meeting just be symbolic. Please let it be a turning point for us. Thank you.
Hansel, last name starts with a U.
Please state your name and which items you're speaking on.
Hansel Urbina, agenda item 1 and 4.
You have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Hansel Urbina, the social equity applicant who's been in this process since 2019. I speak today not with hostility, but with urgency. The city of Los Angeles is charging social equity applicants a 10% gross receipt tax before we even break even. It's not just unsustainable, it's predatory. We're forced to pay one of the highest cannabis taxes in the country, while also being denied the basic tax deductions that every other business receives under 280E, plus the 19% excise tax that went up 4% this past week. That means we're taxed like we're profitable while bleeding out on compliance, legal fees, and security. Let's not talk about the delays that the DCR has caused, not in terms of months, but years. I did state that I've been in this process in 2019 took 9 months over the past year to get my location approved. What you're doing, intentionally or not, is ensuring that we fail. The city has received tens of millions of dollars in cannabis-related grants. The DCR has been entrusted with those funds to support equity, but while departments get funded, applicants go broke. The average licensing timeline has stretched from months to years. Many of us have lost our savings, our credit, our health, waiting for approvals. We're required to pay non-refundable fees. I've been charged for services that were not rendered, as if I opened up a store to keep my application quote-unquote valid. Meanwhile, illicit shops operate without penalty, and some even reopen days after being shut down. You tax us to death while allowing competition to thrive. Enough. This is not equity, this is extraction. You say the city wants to support equity operators, we need to prove it and lower the gross tax receipts immediately. Thank you.
Amon Maggie Yanis.
Please state your name and which items you're speaking on.
Amon Magalhães, and I'm speaking about items 1 and 4.
You have 2 minutes.
It breaks my heart to say that the city of Los Angeles has blood on its hands. The Cannabis Social Equity Program, meant to right the wrongs of the war on drugs, has instead become yet another soldier in this endless war. What should have been reparative justice has become regulatory sabotage. Social equity operators have been pushed into crushing tax debt, forced to navigate impossible red tape, and denied access to capital, while competing against well-funded operators with none of these burdens. This isn't just failure, it's a betrayal. History is repeating itself. After alcohol prohibition ended, Black and brown Americans were locked out of the legal market. Now, nearly a century later, Los Angeles has recreated that same injustice under the guise of equity. The Department of Cannabis Regulation is not just ineffective, it's actively harmful. Chronic delays, underfunding, and the mismanagement of over $10 million in grants have financially destroyed families and businesses. This isn't bureaucracy, it's economic violence. Operators are forced to front massive tax payments with no support, while relief is given elsewhere in the industry. There's no tax forgiveness, no holiday, no access to resources. This is not equity, it's a death sentence disguised as policy. We demand immediate dismantling of the DCR, full tax forgiveness, and the dismissal of those responsible for this mismanagement. This is not just a policy failure, this is a civil rights crisis. You can choose to continue this legacy of exclusion, or you can act with integrity. But know this, the communities you've betrayed are watching, and they will not forget. Thank you.
Kika Keith. Kika Keith.
Good afternoon, commissioners. I just want to take a moment as I will be presenting today. I want to thank you all for holding this meeting, but I would be remiss if I
I'm
didn't
sorry,
speak.
what items are you speaking on?
4 and 1.
You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I would be remiss if I don't bring it to the public record and attention that we didn't find out about this meeting until this week. The agenda was put out on Friday on the DCR's website. I get notifications from the DCR a couple of times a week, notifying me of webinars and the like. I didn't get any notifications of this meeting. And so I would say there is a broader audience of people that have these same concerns that I really wish would have the opportunity to share their testimonies today. As you have seen in the several meetings prior to this, they have come in full force. I was sad to see there wasn't a line with the rope and stanchions that were set up outside. So I would just ask that you have this be a part of your procedures, to have these special meetings, to give more time to really hear what's going on, to interact with us and ask questions outside of the Brown Act, So I appreciate the precedents that's set today, knowing that we have the ability to do this. And I ask you to continue and please put some effort, even reaching out to the local organizations to have more time to promote and to prepare so that you're actually hearing what the industry has to say to you so that you can help effectuate policies that will bolster this industry. Thank you.
Tiffany Wright.
Please state your name and which items you're speaking on.
My name is Tiffany Wright. I'm speaking on agenda items 1 and 4.
You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Cannabis Commissioners, for the opportunity to address the dire circumstances that are causing the cannabis industry in Los Angeles to go extinct. I appreciate this meeting. However, I agree with Kika. Only 5 days advance notice is insufficient, and many stakeholders are not represented today. I'm speaking on behalf of both legacy and equity operators and cannabis patients citywide. I have 17 years of experience in this business and a lifetime as an activist and compassionate person caring about the well-being of others. It is abundantly clear that the city nor the commission have taken the time to study the economics of the industry that they're taxing and regulating out of existence. If you had, they would realize that half of the revenue for each sale immediately goes to cost of goods sold inventory. With compounding tax rates, we're paying about 35 to 40% of the remaining revenue to taxation. That leaves around 10 or 15% margin for rents, which are grossly above market rate in the city. It is common for an average dispensary with a license, because of zoning, to pay 10 to 20K a month in rent for a small space. That doesn't mention payroll. We're one of the more prolific job creation industries in the city. However, we can't afford to pay payroll with 5% or less of our margins left for payroll. So that's a big issue. A lot of people are losing their jobs. I know none of you want to lose your jobs. So hopefully we can come to an agreement, such as reducing the rate for cannabis taxation in the city of LA to 1% for adult use and 0% for medical. That's needed. It's long overdue. It's mandatory. It's your job. And we appreciate your help with this. Thank you.
Sunshine.
Please state your name and which items you're speaking on.
Sunshine Pernego, items 1 and 4.
You have 2 minutes.
Hey, what's up, commissioners? Good to see you as always. Fighting for us, and we need that very much. We need protection. As soon as I got my license earlier this year, all kinds of people approach me because they want to somehow find a way to use that license to hide their movements. What's happening with the industry is it's being driven into the illicit market by overtaxation and by, not being able to get any protection from the people who were looking to protect us, because we went through all this painstaking process so that way we can openly say, look at me, I'm a cannabis connoisseur and I'm here to build a business. It's really, really, really impossible to do that with these 40% tax rates. Could you imagine if your check right now was taxed 40%, besides the regular taxations that happen? If you were in the shoes of these people here, then you would be fighting. They want every extra day where they could tell their friends and their family members and people who are affected, all their employees, hey, drop everything, let's go. We have to make an effective presentation in front of the commission. So we can't afford having the departments that are supposed to protect us hiding by making the time a little bit harder. But I know that it's not in your heart. I know that you guys are going to do the right thing for us. I have that feeling. And we really need you to do that. Everybody here stands exactly in the same space. And unless you guys just blatantly look at all of us and like, hey, screw these guys, let's get them out of here, we don't like their attitude, then just say that. Then just say, hey, we hate these people and we want to get rid of them. We don't want them. They're like cramping our style or something. We really need you to stand up for us. With that being said, thank you very much. Y'all have a very great rest of your week.
Brandy Brown.
Please state your name and which items you're speaking on.
Good afternoon, Brandy Brown speaking on items 1 and 4.
You have 2 minutes.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for having us. Just here to echo the sentiments that you heard from the other retailers here, and asked that you guys take a serious look at lowering the taxes. Personally, I had a spot open for a short time and made a minimal amount of money, but still in a really deep tax debt to close to $30,000. So, and only was able to be open for 4 months. So, again, we ask that you look at this situation with an open mind and with the intentions to return to the essence of what the social equity program was intended to fulfill in the first place, which is so far not happening. You guys have heard from us over and over again. I'm sure you're familiar with our names and faces at this point. So just here to stand in solidarity with my other colleagues in this business and puts something on you guys' hearts and minds and consciousness again, that without us, there is no DCR, there's no DCC, there's no cannabis industry in Los Angeles. It's going to affect everybody. So thank you.
Are there any more speaker cards?
No, we do not have more speaker cards.
Okay, then public comment period is now closed. We are on to item 2 on the agenda, elected office, neighborhood council, and other public entity presentations. This is a reminder that any representatives of neighborhood councils who have filed a resolution or a community impact statement with the city clerk, which relates to any item on the agenda, will be given time to speak during the agenda item itself. Please provide a copy of the filed statement or resolution to the commission executive assistant. Any neighborhood council representative speaking on behalf of their neighborhood council must provide a letter on their letterhead stating the neighborhood council's position on the matter. Absent any neighborhood council documentation, comments may still be provided during the public comment period. I have a request from the department to take items 5 through 20 out of order to continue those items to a future date. I move to continue items 5 through 20 to the commission meeting of July 17th, 2025. Do I have a second?
Vice President Nash seconds the motion.
Thank you. Mr. Vizo, please call the roll.
President Mason,
Aye.
Commissioner Nash,
Aye.
Commissioner Farmby, Commissioner Bierman.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Thank you. We will now resume with the regular agenda order. Item 3 is commission business. Commissioners, you should have received an advance calendar in front of you with our future meeting dates. Please take a look, and if there are any planned absences, please advise.
Commissioner Farmby. I'm not available on 8/21.
Thank you.
Commissioner Farmby, was that August 21st?
Yes.
Thank you.
This is President Mason. I will not be available October 16th.
This is Commissioner Bierman, and I will not be available on August 21st either.
For the record, regarding August 21st, we will lose quorum with absences from Commissioners Farmby and Bierman. So therefore, absent a new commissioner being appointed by that time, there will be no meeting. Commissioners, any other absences? Thank you. Moving on to the approval of minutes, we were sent the minutes of May 15th for review. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Vice President Nash moves to approve the minutes of May 15, 2025.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Commissioner Farmby, a second.
Thank you. Mr. Vizel, please call the roll.
Vice President Nash,
Oh, I should indicate that I was not in attendance at the meeting, but I did watch it on live screen in full.
thank you.
This is also Deputy City Attorney Emily Watt. I'd just like to note for the record that Commissioner Bierman has left the room.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You may continue.
Commissioner Farmby? President Mason?
Aye.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to commissioner announcements and updates. Commissioners, do you have any announcements or updates? This is President Mason. Commissioner Bierman has rejoined the meeting. Hearing no announcements or updates, we are moving on to future agenda requests. Commissioners, are there any future agenda requests? Okay, hearing none, we are on to item 4, the reason we are all here. Presentations regarding cannabis taxation from cannabis applicants, licensees, and or cannabis trade associations. The Commission will hear presentations from the Department's commercial cannabis applicants and licensees or cannabis trade associations in accordance with the rules noted on today's agenda. I ask that everyone abide by these rules so that we can have a productive and respectful conversation. As was mentioned earlier, disruptions will not be tolerated. If you disrupt the proceedings, you will receive 2 warnings issued by the city attorney. If you continue the disruptive behavior, you will be asked to leave the meeting. Presentations will be limited to the issue of cannabis taxation only. A total of 6 hours has been allotted for this agenda item. The timer will begin when the first speaker is called and will run continuously, pausing only for official meeting breaks. No new speakers will be called up if there are 10 minutes or less remaining on the timer. Each individual presentation is limited to 15 minutes. After the presentation, commissioners may ask questions for up to an additional 15 minutes. Please keep track of your time. Presentations will be cut off at the 15-minute mark to ensure fairness and to keep the meeting moving. As with all commission meetings, members of the public will not be permitted to ask questions directly of department staff. At the discretion of the president, commissioners may direct questions to the department. However, this meeting really is between the commission and the community at this point. Please note that there will be no cross-examination or direct exchanges between the public and department staff. Individuals may not give their speaking time to someone else. However, those on the presentation list may include others in their presentation and share their time. The total time allowed for each presentation is limited to 15 minutes, regardless of how many people are speaking. Only one digital file may be submitted per presentation. no matter how many presenters are involved. Staff has given me the names of individuals in the order in which they lined up before the meeting, and I will be calling them in that order, one person at a time. If an individual is not present when their name is called, their turn will be forfeited and the next individual will be called to the podium. They will not be recalled later in the commission meeting. If you have a digital presentation, you should have emailed it to the Cannabis Commission email as directed by staff with your assigned number in the subject line so the staff can queue it up for us when your name is called. If you are not called to present before the 6-hour time limit for this agenda item ends, you will not be able to make a presentation. However, if a presentation is in progress when we reach the 6-hour mark, it will be allowed to finish even if it runs past the time limit. Lastly, I want to encourage all presenters today to listen closely to those who speak before them and consider incorporating or building their points rather than repeating the same issues. While you are allotted up to 15 minutes for your presentation, you are not required to use the full time. Keeping your remarks focused and concise will allow more individuals the opportunity to participate in today's discussion. Thank you for your cooperation and your consideration, and we will now get started. The first speaker is Leona, or the first presenter is Leona Bailey. I'm sorry, Leona Beatty.
Please
Good
state,
afternoon.
I'm sorry, please state your name and you have 15 minutes to address the commission.
My name is Leona Whitney Beatty. I'm a Phase 3 Round 1 Social Equity licensee. And my presentation is up top. Oh, is it? All right, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so I'm Whitney Beatty, and I'm founder and CEO at Josephine and Billy's, one of Los Angeles' first wave of social equity dispensaries built by and for women of color in South Los Angeles. I opened the store in honor of Josephine Baker and Billie Holiday, two Black women who were criminalized for cannabis use, while others built generational wealth off the same plant. Josephine and Billy's is more than just a dispensary. It is a dream, a tribute to the people who came before us, and a declaration that we belong in this industry too. For me, this work has been very personal and deeply rooted in justice. But to be honest, lately I've been asking myself, was it ever worth it? Because even though we've cleared licensing hurdles, passed every inspection, hired locally, created jobs, became a safe space for our community, we are being taxed out of existence. I'm spending tens of thousands of dollars just to stay licensed and compliant in a system that charges my customers over 40% in taxes, while they can walk across the street to an unlicensed shop and buy untaxed, untested product for half the price. This isn't just bad policy, it's a betrayal of the equity promise. And let me be clear, this is not a situation where we don't want to pay our taxes. These situations happen because these businesses cannot become cash flow positive in this environment, period. We're not missing payments because we're reckless. We are drowning and dying. I'm going to keep. So, what is it costing us? People are not talking enough about what the actual cost of these actions are, not just financially, but mentally and physically. I put my health, my family, my savings on the line for this business, not because I don't know how to run one, but because the math does not work. And I'm not alone. Dozens of equity operators are quietly folding. Some are too proud to say it. Others are too tired to keep fighting. And if something does not change, Los Angeles Equity Program will not be a national model. It'll be a cautionary tale. You'll see that I provided you guys with a packet of documentation. The first one is on top. This is a white paper that I wrote, report on lowering taxes and strengthening enforcement in the city of Los Angeles. On the back of that, there's also the equity impact report from Supernova Women that did a intensive study of all the social equity programs across the country, and it talks about results. And so moving on, I'm going to speak to those things that you'll find in that document. All right, so the core problem is too many taxes, not enough protection. Let's look at the numbers. Los Angeles charges 10% gross tax receipts stacked on top of the state's 19% excise tax and 9.75% sales tax. That pushes the compound tax rate to over 40% per transaction. Meanwhile, unlicensed dispensaries pay zero. Our customers are price sensitive. The California Legislative Analyst Office found that a 10% tax increase can result in a reduction of legal sales of up to 22%. So we already know that these cost increases are hurting us in our bottom line. Therefore, it's no surprise that over 60% of cannabis consumers in California are still shopping at the illicit market. In LA, our legal cannabis sales on average is $139 per capita, compared to $305 in Michigan, where taxes are lower and enforcement is stronger. That's 1.6 billion lost in legal sales every year. We're literally taxing ourselves into failure. There's no reason why people in Michigan are buying more legal weed, except for the fact that it's so easy for people to buy illegal weed in the city of Los Angeles. So the day-to-day financial reality, what those numbers don't show you is how precarious things are behind the scene. Because retailers aren't just struggling to pay taxes, we're struggling to keep up with everything. The entire industry is cash strapped. Retail pays vendors slowly because we don't have the cash. Vendors are stretched thin because we're behind. And we're behind because we're being eaten alive by the illicit market and the astronomical taxes. Half of my job is just managing payment plans, asking for grace, praying that payroll clears, trying to figure out how to rob Peter to pay Paul so I can keep my doors open for just one more week. I'm supposed to put my taxes in a separate escrow account like I'm flush with extra cash, but I can't even afford the $1,500 a month I'm paying in banking fees now for my existing business account. We're not being financially irresponsible. We are being crushed. The data is very clear in this case that tax cuts work. That's the good news. Cities that are acting are seeing results. Santa Ana cut cannabis taxes in 2023 and paired it with strong enforcement. They've since garnered over $50 million in revenue and kept illicit activity low. The city of Oakland introduced a tiered tax system with tax rates as low as 0.12% for small operators and launched a rebate program for businesses that hire equity employees or subsidize equity operators. Their revenue rebounded to $13.5 million in 2021, surpassing pre-reform numbers. The city of San Francisco suspended its local cannabis tax entirely in 2022 to support the small cannabis businesses from the illegal operators. These cities understood something that Los Angeles refuses to acknowledge. You don't grow tax revenue by taxing failure. You grow it by creating a legal market that people can actually participate in. And part of that has got to be enforcement. Lowering taxes is only half the equation. The other part has to be enforcement. Right now, illegal shops operate out in the open. There are 6 of them within a half mile of my location. They have no landlord penalties and there's no urgency to shut them down. But when enforcement happens, it works. If you look at some in that document, you'll find research done by Catalyst Cannabis that saw sales increase over 50% at their Oxnard store location after the city cracked down on illegal shops. That's not a marketing change, no product changes, just straight enforcement. The LA City Controller's high maintenance report recommends exactly what other cities are doing now: fines and liens on landlords, multi-agency enforcement, and shutting down repeat offenders. If you're going to hold us legal operators to the highest standards, we have to be holding those illegal operators, the ones who enable them, to do the same. Equity operators, at the end of the day, are going to be the first to fail, and we're seeing it left, right, and center. Let's be honest, this system is not breaking everyone. Big operators will survive this. They have capital reserves and access to investors, but small, local, Black and brown owned businesses, especially social equity licensees, cannot. You'll also have the document that shares the Supernova Women Equity Impact Report, which shows that high taxes, delayed grants, and unchecked illegal activity are destroying equity businesses across California and across the nation. And many of us are still waiting on the types of grants that we thought we were going to be promised a long time ago. Meanwhile, every dollar in tax revenue goes into the LA General Fund with no commitment to equity, reentry, or community investment. We were promised equity, but it was never built into the ordinance. So now we have a program with all bark and no bite. And at the end of the day, there is a human cost for these delays. It's not just economic, it's emotional. I've been a cannabis entrepreneur, an advocate. I've stood up in front of this group so many times I've lost count. And I'm an optimist. But Lord Jesus, I am tired. I'm tired of working this hard and still falling behind. Tired of watching my peers walk away. Tired of defending a system that does not defend us. But I'm still here because this matters. And there is a solution. We're not just here to complain. We've done the work. We wrote a report. We see the solution as being clear. Reduce the local cannabis tax. Drop those gross receipts tax like the city of Oakland did to a tiered program, or at least drop them for equity applicants. There's no reason why we should be paying this high taxes in this environment. Strengthen enforcement. Fund a multi-agency strike team. Find the landlord. Shut off utilities. Join the state's CAP program. Provide relief for equity operators. Offer rebates and tax forgiveness. I personally spent $250,000. That's a full fourth of the money I raised to open my dispensary was lost because of delays with the city. That's a quarter of $250,000 gone. And I will never get that back. We opened our doors with $30,000 in the bank. That is not a recipe for success. The city drained us of those funds because of the requirement to hold that property. The city should offer some recompense for the harm that it caused. Give us some credit on these tax bills that are astronomical. And then finally, reinvest in the communities. Earmark a portion of that cannabis tax revenue for youth programs, reentry, mental health, and legal aid. All of our money is going to the general fund, and it doesn't make sense. Cities like Maryland, Baltimore and Maryland are already doing this, and they're seeing the return on their investment. Ultimately, let's address the big questions here. Will lowering taxes reduce the city's revenue? Absolutely not. By lowering taxes, you will bring more people into the legal market. Long Beach and Oakland saw revenues bounce back when they lowered taxes. More, is this just helping big weed? No. Multi-state operators can weather high taxes. This is about saving local, small, equity-owned shops. Does this change, do lowering taxes make you guys look soft on the cannabis issue? No, it shows that Los Angeles is serious about enforcement, about fairness, and about public health. Because at the end of the day, that's what we put into place with our legal compliant businesses. And finally, can we afford to prioritize equity? We can't afford not to. Further to that, you'll see in the research that I've given you that what research has shown is that for every dollar spent on an equity program, a city will get at least $1.25 back on that investment. And if you put the right things in place, you can see upwards of $4 back on that investment. So we're not asking you to throw your money in a hole. We're asking you to listen to us as we're the ones who are living these market conditions and make the changes necessary for us to survive and thrive. If something does not change soon, there will not be an equity program left to protect. I guarantee it. You have licenses, but no licensees, regulations, but no retailers, and a market that belongs entirely to those who never, ever needed protection. Lower the taxes, enforce the rules, protect those who took the risk, and invest in communities that paid the highest price. The time to act is now. Thank you.
Ms. Beatty, thank you for being here today. Thank you for this report and for your presentation. I am going to open this up to the commissioners for Q&A at this time. Mr. Rizzo, how much time do we have left?
Your start time will start now, 15 minutes.
Thank you. Commissioners, don't be shy, jump right in there.
Thank you. This is Commissioner Farnby. Thank you. I really appreciate the report that you provided to us. I've been kind of looking through it and skimming through it, and I also want to thank you for the presentation. I have a couple of questions just to kind of get to making sure I understand what you were presenting to us so I can get in the right frame of mind of what we're talking here. Can you go back to the slide that kind of had the 4 points that you saw? It's kind of like the
4-point solution.
Yes, thank you. I had a question regarding like the 4 points. I'm clear on what is stated in the on the PowerPoint itself. Do you see like do you see this as something that when we address it that this happens to have happen all at once? Or do you see it as kind of like, hey, we need to do this first, we need to do the second, these two need to go together, the next two need to go together? I'm just trying to understand, like, I get what I'm seeing, but I want to understand, like, how do we get to the solution?
I think that for me, most important is going to be making sure that we're reducing that local tax and strengthening enforcement at the same time, because without one, the other does not work. And the other side of this is, relief for equity operators. I could list off 5 people that I know who are looking to close their equity businesses in the next month or 2 because they can't pay taxes. They just can't afford them, and the market has bottomed out even from when I opened at 2021 to now. So I'm competing against more illegal operators than ever before. And when people know, hey, I'm in debt to the city, $250,000 on taxes, it feels insurmountable. And then people walk away from their licenses.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it. I've in my time here in this commission, I've also kind of spoke about I think many of us have spoken about the enforcement piece. I had a question for you regarding, you had stated in a PowerPoint that the enforcement there was an increase in enforcement by one of the cities.
Oxnard, the city of Oxnard.
Yeah. Do you have any examples of what they did?
I can give you those. Some of it is mentioned in the white paper that I gave you, but I can give you further information on the data that they shared with us. What we're seeing, and it's not just Oxnard, in multiple locations, when they're doing that enforcement against illegal operators and smoke shops who are selling cannabis, that those numbers bounce up tremendously. It's an access issue.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I would really appreciate that. I know we've heard quite a few operators that have kind of like spoken about this, and just to kind of understand it a little bit more, I really appreciate that information.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you for the opportunity.
This is Vice President Nash. Thank you for your presentation. Very much appreciated, and all the information you provided. In your presentation, you mentioned that there's 6 illegal shops within a half mile of your shop.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about what you've done and what your experience has been in trying to get those shops shut down?
I have reported them to the police. I have given their information and addresses to the mayor's office. These shops are not hidden. They have CBD store and cannabis leaves and green crosses all over. So and my store is actually located directly across from the police department on MLK at the corner of Dinker. So if I see them coming in, I'm assuming that those officers see them as well. And yet, what we're being told is that there is no prioritization on any sort of enforcement around cannabis, and has not been and will not be.
They've actually said that they're.
They've said that. Look me in the eye. I've had a police officer look me in the eye and say that.
So my other question was going to be, did you follow up with them? And I'm assuming the answer is that you have to a certain extent.
Yeah, to a certain extent. I mean, I bring it up at every time I can, because it really you can see the decrease in business that I have as more of them open up, because I can't compete. At the end of the day, if I'm selling an item that's 10, I've got to sell, I buy it at 5, I'm going to have to at least double it in order to cover those costs of goods. So now it's 10, then I've got to add that extra $4, so that's $14 that I'm selling this item for, that they can sell it at $5 because they don't have that overhead. I can never compete in that.
Well, just know that I'm very sympathetic, especially to that issue. From day one, for me on this commission, I realized that the best thing you can do for the legal market is to shut down the illegal market.
It's the truth. I'm not trying to, encourage people to have a war on drugs 2.0, but you can't have us paying these licensing fees and jumping through all these compliance hoops and inspections and things that we take really seriously, and then have the guy next door selling the exact same stuff for cheaper than us. It's terrible.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Hi, Miss Beatty. This is President Mason. I remember when you first opened your shop and how excited you were to finally get to that point. And the road certainly hasn't been one that you thought it would be. And I hate to see that you are here. My question has to do with, it's more of a life cycle question. Like, at what point did you become unable to meet your tax obligation? And tell me about what was going on with your business at that point in time.
I mean, it happened, within the first year, especially when I believe the first year we didn't have to pay CDTFA up front. They gave us, the bill for everything at the back. So then I couldn't make that payment. Again, I opened the store with $30,000 in the bank, and leveraged as much credit as we could. But as those expensive bills kept rolling in, i.e. my payroll and our rent, our insurance costs on top of, everything else, it quickly, spiraled out of control. We were able to then we did a payment plan with both CDTFA, and we went through a Los Angeles audit and did a payment plan with them, and were able to pay those both back or what have you. But then we got hit with licensing fees again. We got a higher cost on our insurance. We got hit with a rent increase, and quickly we're not able to make all of those payments. And then what ends up happening is you have to sit down and look at the cost benefit analysis of who to pay, because CDTFA is going to give me a 50% penalty the second that I'm late, on top of the interest. So then you're in a robbing Peter to pay Paul, and of course I have to pay my staff. They're not volunteers, and I take the fact that their households are in my hands very seriously. But it is a continuous issue on a monthly basis of us trying to figure out how to put those payments in place. Even with the industry as it is, I mean, the industry has been going downhill since 2020. But if you look and ask these other operators as well, I think that we've seen our business drop at least 25% on a year over year right now, because of where we are with the economy, and because of the proliferation of these illegal shops. So I'm bringing in even less, but my hard costs remain the same. My landlord does not care that less people are walking through the door. They still want all that money. The insurance is still high. I still have to pay $1,500 in just fees on the banking. And so there is no relief for us outside of getting some understanding or credits on taxes, and being able to get the city and the state to work with us on existing debt.
Thank you. So let me ask you, if the taxes were reduced, what would you do with that, with those funds?
I could be more competitive. I mean,
I mean, you'd be able to, I get that you'd be able to reduce your prices, but as that increases your revenue, what would you do with that revenue increase?
I would put it back into the business. At this point in time, my store has been open for 3 going on 4 years now. And I can count on 2 hands the amount of months that we were actually cash flow positive because of the amount. I mean, because we're also paying our invoices. We have to bring in, this product. So it would allow us to be into a better financial situation so we can invest more into the business. We can invest more into our staff and getting their skills up to open new stores and do other things. That is the goal. But when you're hamstrung and you're cash strapped, it becomes really hard to focus on growth. You're trying for survival.
Understood. Thank you. I don't have any more questions. Any other commissioners with more questions?
I just have one question. This is Commissioner Bierman. I first want to thank you for the presentation. It was incredibly helpful and illuminating. So thank you for both the presentation and the report you shared. And I just wanted to double click on the enforcement piece. As being new to this, it's clear that that's a huge problem. And wanted to know whether there were any examples you had of a successful enforcement outcome around your shop. So intervention by the city that did result in like sort of the permanent cessation of an illegal dispensary.
In the 3.5 years that my shop has been open, I have not seen one of the illegal shops around me become raided or closed. They just open more. So I've read about, how that has worked in different cities, but I've not seen it in the city of Los Angeles.
Have you seen any efforts that have, sort of like measures that didn't work, but at least were tried by law enforcement?
I mean, I've heard that the city took a bite of this apple a couple of years ago and brought landlords to court, and they were about 50-50 on the success rate of that. But other than that, no. I mean, I've not ever received a response back for any of my online submissions, my personal submissions, or the things that I've sent to the mayor's office.
Understood. Thank you.
To your question, I can say that I do personally know of one illegal shop that was closed down. Probably, it was before the pandemic. It was right when the industry started, and it did not reopen. That building, that particular space in the building, remains vacant. Council President Harris Dawson closed it down at that time. Can't remember what tactics he used to get it done, but it stayed closed. But that's one out of over now almost 800 illegal operators. So barely a drop in the bucket. I think I'm done.
I've got another question. This is Vice President Nash. As an experienced operator, do you think there's any confusion about licensed dispensaries and unlicensed dispensaries? In other words, do you think the consumer knows when they're going to an illegal dispensary?
I absolutely believe that there is a lot of confusion on this issue. I have gotten into lots of conversations with people who are telling me, oh, they come into the store, how come I can't, pick out my nugs of cannabis? And I'm like, well, that's not legal since, this program is in place. Oh, but the guy down the street does it. But that's not a licensed dispensary. Oh, sure it is. They've got to sign up and everything. The people, the constituents from Los Angeles do not know what makes a license, dispensary. They could put any certificate on the wall and people are like, sure. They think that if they are able to stay open and the police has not stopped them, that they must inherently be a legal dispensary. I would wager a guess that less than 50, more than 50% of the people who are walking into these illicit places do not know that that is what they're doing.
I appreciate that answer. And then, so I would just say to you, we may not have time, but and to any other speakers, if there's any suggestions about how to better differentiate legal from illegal to your benefit, the commission would love to hear it.
I mean, we've seen, I believe the DCC has the program with the QR codes that we have in the window or what have you. And to be honest, I haven't seen that make a huge difference for my customer base because not everybody is using that. But I think that it's going to have to be something that's loud, that is billboard based, that is explaining to people the dangers of using and going to illicit shops and the value of legal cannabis. At the end of the day, we make good neighbors. We're keeping our neighborhoods safe and we care about the communities in which we serve. I think that's my time. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. So what I'm going to do is start queuing up people. Luis Rivera, you're next, and after him will be Daniel Sosa.
Please state your name and you have 15 minutes to address the commission.
Thank you. My name is Luis Rivera.
My name is Christopher Martinez. I'm actually signed up for another presentation because of the short notice. Wasn't too comfortable with what I had prepared, so we decided kind of to just join together and try to make it more efficient and more direct.
Our time's already.
Your clock is ticking in case you're not aware.
Well, just a quick introduction. I initially started the process in 17. I got my cousin and I verified as social equity operators. I believe he opened in around 2021 and was shut down by 2023, or roughly 2 years of operating. He stuck with a lot of debt, a lot of fees, a lot of fines from taxes from predatory operators. And I've reached out to the DCR for help. I'm waiting for, I have an email that I haven't had a response since February from Dr. Brown and the rest of the staff. I myself was able to open in November 2023, and literally right now, what we're bringing in is barely enough to pay the bills. There's no profit right now. Right now, we're basically operating to stay alive.
Thank you. So I just want to start out with saying, thank you once again for your time. It is hard to present and prepare a thoughtful, presentation with limited time. So just please, as everyone said, we appreciate your more advanced notice.
I'm sorry, can I get your name one more time?
Yeah, my name is Luis Rivera.
Thank you.
And I'm a licensed social equity delivery operator, and I have a few locations located throughout the San Fernando Valley. I'm also an advocate and founder of Social Equity LA. I qualified due to my cannabis arrest when I was younger. However, despite my past barriers and managed to work for the city of LA, the government, and start my own business. When the city passed the social equity program, I was able to be the owner of my own cannabis business. I was excited and hopeful to be part of a fair and inclusive cannabis economy which supported social equity license holders, most of whom came from communities disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs or who have had a past criminal record, such as myself. There were promises. These were the promises and opportunities of opportunities through legalization. But today, many of us are hanging on by a thread. Now, I'm a social equity licensee who has spent the last 5 years struggling through the Department of Cannabis Regulation licensing process. As a licensee I'm a licensee who has faced repeated delays, unclear guidance, and unnecessary financial strain caused by the excessive fees and taxes. As Trump gives tax cuts to the wealthiest Americans here in LA, Mayor Karen Bass, the LA City Council, and the DCR just increased fees and the state increased taxes on the most vulnerable businesses. Los Angeles is already one of the highest tax burden in California. Um, I guess I want to just start off by saying going there and then getting into the presentation. So first off, I put up some slides. I said most of it is repetitive stuff you guys may know or can read later in Los Angeles. Right now, we're really struggling because of this 19% excise tax that just passed at the state, along with the fee increase and a few other things. So I kind of want to state why we're here. The city does impose a 10% local tax, which is the max. The 19% excess tax that was increased on July 1st. Recently, there was a fee study was passed when most operators and licensees and the industry opposed it, which is which will put more financial strain this year, the end of this year for us licensees. Also, the DCR decided to use all the grant money to cover fees and programmatic costs rather than provide direct funding to social equity applicants. You guys are in government. Do you prefer unrestricted funds or restricted funds? So for us to not have that money directly is putting more of a barrier on us. And we've raised those concerns as well to the city council and the administrative attorney's office to see, um, also there was, I'm sorry, there was something stated that the fees were excluded for social equity. However, they were covered using our grant. So I don't know if this is semantics or what the issue is, but either are we excluded and those fees don't apply to us, or are you guys using our grant money to cover our, your salaries? Mm. I think I can stop there and kind of.
I just wanted to add again to the social equity funding. Initially, the social equity funding, the grant is given to help social equity operates get assistance in operating. It's not for support to sustain a overly funded, overly costly department. And so, what a lot of cities have done is they give those fundings directly to the operators. And instead of doing that, the DCR is just filling their financial gap, which isn't. It just seems like you're stealing from Peter to pay Paul.
So I'm going to ask that we stay on topic, which is taxation.
Well, it would help that
Yeah.
taxation problem as well if we had that money. We'd be able to pay taxes.
I mean, I would say that we've presented a proposal and we're trying to put a story together for you. So I would, ask for you to allow us to kind of present everything as relevant and how it relates to taxes and how, these tax impact us as businesses. But going along with the presentation, I'll compare. No, jump into that.
This is where we're comparing.
So just going back into the impact, as we said, the California cannabis market and here in Los Angeles has been my nightmare. As a small business owner and social equity participant, I've committed all my resource, my energy to build a compliant and community-centered business. However, this increases in fees and taxes is hindering our ability to survive in a market dominated by illicit operators and large-scale corporations. Going back to tax relief, if a tax relief is not provided, they'll further inflate consumer prices, reduce profit margins, undermine the intent of social equity program, and discourage reinvestment in local community. My experience, I've been audited by the city of LA, and some of those findings were that I was underpaying my taxes by $100 monthly. That took months for me to use my. I have to work with my POS provider. I have to come up with payment, provide all the information to the Office of Finance. And like I said, they showed that I paid $100 underpaid due to accounting error on our part, and we have penalties that are added on top of that. While others you guys, no one's collecting these hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars that other illegal operators are not even forced to pay.
And so kind of some of the ancillary impacts to that is When we can't compete with the black market or the illicit market because of the taxes are being high, what you're basically doing is pushing our customers to purchase illicit, untested, potentially dangerous product. Not only that, some of these illicit operators don't do age verification. So not only are you potentially putting dangerous, harmful products into their hands, you're also potentially opening an avenue for minors to access cannabis products or stuff that has other things in it. On top of that, the difficulty of competing with them, you're talking about 60% of the sales go to the illicit market. Imagine if that 60% was the legal market, and you had a just give it 90% was legal cannabis sales. How much taxes do you think would come back to the city? How much tax revenue do you think would benefit the city to fund other things? So that's kind of the big picture that we're missing, is that if you guys shut down these illegal shops, or at least give a little bit of effort to make sure those we're not losing revenue market space to the illicit market, we could potentially do some great things and have a sustainable market here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, and on that note, just some data: is 60% of consumers are still purchasing illegally, and even a 1% increase drives consumers into the illicit market. Just kind of going over some other cities and what they do. We want to make sure we're providing some recommendations.
Yeah, we definitely want to highlight the city of San Francisco. It's amazing what they do, especially consider what we went through just to open up with holding the properties, paying fees, and taking years to open. They have no taxes on your first $1 million generated. That's a huge leg up when you're opening any type of business that you could use. Instead of paying taxes, 10% of that, you could infuse it back into your business and ensure that you're having a healthy foundation. And then after that, they're capped out at 5%. To a certain extent, you're only paying 2.5% in taxes. And then after, I think it's 2 million or 1 million, 1.5, you're paying 5%. So that's a huge opportunity especially for social equity. So we definitely want to highlight how San Francisco has done their tax structure. So we're really pushing for a tiered structure and also tax amnesty for social equity operators, so that we could get stable, so we could stabilize our debt, so we could pay back or at least afford to stay open.
Just Oakland and other cities that we looked at as well, and then Long Beach. I think Oakland pays almost near 1% for social equity for taxes there. And then one of the things Long Beach did as well is they avoid stacking fees. I know that's not with taxes, but we are forced to pay for multiple license fees for one location. If you have 2 or 3 uses, they're charging you 3 or 4 times, where there should be some savings there. So
Not
that's
only
something
that,
they've looked at.
Not only that, it's taxes on all 3 operations. The state of California allows a micro business license that allows you to do 3 different operations, and you're paying taxes under one business. But now, here in Los Angeles, 3 different fees, 3 different taxes. It's just overburdensome. Social equity operators could fully benefit from a micro business license where they produce their own product in-house and sell it out of their own shop. That's another opportunity for them as well that we don't have.
Oh, thank you. And just like someone said, San Francisco, they gave holidays for a whole year because of the burden of these taxes. So something we need serious tax relief and serious tax reform. Here's some of the recommendations that we have discussed. Pretty much implemented tiered gross receipt taxes system, anywhere from 1 to 2.5% for social equity operators. We also noticed, Council Member Melda Padilla has a motion, Council File 25020, to provide a study on how a tiered structure would work. So we're in favor of that and want to make sure we are here to support that.
Yeah, as far as the recommendations go, I think it's important to understand where we're at right now. A lot of us are hanging by a thread, and we need your help. There's reports showing how much taxes are owed. We do need a tax holiday. We need an extended period of time to not pay taxes and infuse it back into the debts that we have towards operators, towards rent, and even just to stabilize ourselves and compete with the illicit market until the city does something about the illicit market. Because honestly, we can't sustain ourselves until we got more market cap. Until that happens, we can't pay taxes. We can't. Uh, we're gonna struggle to pay anything on top of that. So if the city wants a healthy cannabis industry, it has to look at how it can assist the current operators, especially social equity. It's ridiculous that we have to pay more fees than regular operators on top of the taxes and on top of the burden that it took us to open. But Luis wanted to add one more thing.
Let me, I know we're running short on time here, so I just wanted to highlight some of the recommendations regarding tax relief and credit for social equity. This is a must. You know, the state provides the vendor compensation program, CDTFA, they give 20% back on excise tax. There should be programs like that that the city and Office of Finance offers. Um, we also want to earmark against some of the tax dollars for enforcement against illicit shops, and then bring some of that back into the industry, provide direct relief to us from those monies that you're collecting, and then support the state level efforts. Um, in conclusion, you know, really how lowering taxes and increasing the tax revenue is the answer. It's not going to be stopping an illegal market that has existed for 20, 30, 40, 100 years. It's not the only solution. The immediate solution is give us the same tax, the same ability to compete at them, and that's pay zero taxes. You know, you have models showing growth here as well, or I'm sorry. Yeah, these are the models showing some growth. If we increase the legal market 20, 30, 40%, 50%, right now 60% of people are purchasing it illegally. So I would say, just concluding there, we're not asking for a favor, we're offering solution. This isn't about avoiding taxes, it's about
Thank you.
survival.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
This is President Mason. Gentleman in the green shirt, may I have your name again?
Christopher Martinez.
Are you okay?
President Mason,
Yes,
are we starting commissioner's time?
we are.
You have 15 minutes.
Thank you. Mr. Rivera and Mr. Martinez, thank you so much for being here and for preparing a presentation for us. I want to talk about something that's been on my mind in terms of trying to understand taxation. And you all did touch on that in your presentation. And I'm trying to understand how businesses who are vertically integrated are taxed. And based on what I've learned, it seems that any business that is vertically integrated has a heavier tax burden than, say, someone who is just a dispensary. Can you elaborate on that for me?
I would say if you have multiple licenses, you would incur more taxes, yes.
Okay. So within that model, what would a tiered tax structure, if you've given it any thought, if you haven't, that's fine too. What would a tiered tax structure look like in that particular business model?
I think the revenue for each license, you know, there should be a max for that license to qualify. You know, 1.5, 1 million per license. The first million should be taxed at a certain rate, maybe after you hit a threshold as well. But I think in general, into the city, you know, enforces at least 50% of the illegal market, or there's a threshold there, then we should all have tax amnesty.
Okay. I got that. I'm just concerned. My concern is in this particular context has to do with how there's an umbrella company, 3 different lines of business, but the taxation is equal across the lines, and it seems a bit hefty in my opinion. And what can be done to kind of tweak that to make it a bit more favorable for those types of operators? But if you don't have a response to that, that's okay. Maybe
Yeah,
somebody
it's
else
not
will.
something that I've thought out completely through as far as how a tax structure for a micro business license. I mean, I know cannabis cultivation isn't taxed at the state level. If you're doing an internal and vertically integrated operation and it's social equity, I mean, I would look in just taxing the sales at that point, or taxing the sales at the retail end. So you're going to be able to sell not only out of your doors, but you're also going to be able to distribute and sell out of other retailers. So there's two sale exit points at that point that you could potentially tax. But still, tier tax structure that simulates Oakland and San Francisco. I'm sure there's models out there. You wouldn't have to tax necessarily each point of operation. It's basically one business. I don't know if that adds any clarification, but
Kind of, sort of, and not kind of, sort of. But I mean, um, I'm a little bit in my feelings when we put this meeting together, and I understand that you didn't have time to prepare though. But please don't ask me to go look for something somewhere when we set the space up for you all to provide information to us. Please don't do that.
I mean, we could definitely send it to you.
Yeah. So we can move past that. I'll be back. I'll open the floor to the other commissioners. Go ahead.
This is Commissioner Farmby.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. This is also Deputy City Attorney Wada. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm just going to ask that we refrain from any public disruptions while the commission is interacting with the presenters. Thank you.
It's Commissioner Farmby. Thank you, Christopher and Luis, for the presentation. We really appreciate it. Specifically around the pieces that you had on some of the solutions. Before I ask my question, I wanted to get clarification from you. I wanted to make sure I heard you correctly regarding what you see as the immediate and the biggest problem, which is the tax issue. And you did what I thought I heard you say is that you didn't think that the illicit market was an issue, a bigger issue. Is that correct?
I don't think you could. I'm sorry. I don't think you could look at it at what's the biggest issue. It's all part of the problem. And so if you're gonna, there should be a multi-effort solution here. What can we do to shut down the illicit market? We've mentioned multiple times that 60% of the sales are in the illicit market. If you're able to offset that, that's going to flood. Not only going to help us out, but it's also going to help the city out. And then on top of that, taxes immediately could help us try to compete with the illicit market, but you can't just do one and not do the other. They kind of, essentially, in my opinion, they have to go hand in hand. And the city's received an enormous amount of tax revenue from the cannabis operators. I don't see why some of that can't be earmarked to combat the illicit market. You're potentially giving yourself a better opportunity to capture more of that market cap or market space if you shut down the illegal operators.
Yeah, I would say to touch on that. Yeah, I do think it's either it's a what is it a chicken and egg thing. People are shopping illegally because there was no legal stores at one point. Then legal stores came, and why are they not shopping there? It's because the taxes are too high. So if you lower the taxes, I have a lot of people that would gladly shop legally. I know a lot of people now that are not going to shop legally given the 19%, but it drives the tax rate does drive behavior, and profit margins. So to me, that is one of the biggest things we can do. Unless DCR's got, the artillery and they're going to start going and shutting down illegal shops.
And I just want to emphasize that when you increase the taxes, increase the fees, increase the cost of operation, that requires the operator to have the price that it needs just to sustain itself. You're gonna reinforce and strengthen the black market. Right now, what's going on? The illicit market is getting stronger and stronger because we're not implementing policy to support the legal operators. So I think that's something that has to stay in our minds. Is like, how do we support, sustain, and strengthen the legal market to be able to not only combat but bring down the illicit market? Probably won't ever go away, but there are examples out there what we could do. And I know Pasadena is one of them that has done that. San Diego is another one that's been able to shut down the majority of their illicit markets. And we'll do that research for you guys and send it to you guys and hopefully get a response when it's received and utilized in the meetings that we have in the future.
Thank you for the clarification. I just want to make sure I heard properly. I've heard quite a few operators have come before us that saw this as a 1-2 punch, not one or the other. It's kind of
No,
more.
I think it's 1-2, but I think the right hook and the left jab is different. So the
Got
right hook is the tax.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure I wasn't putting words in your mouth and I heard you properly. And with that being said, I did, I was following you along on your presentation. I saw that you did a really good job at kind of talking about the tax aspect of the issue. Do you have any ideas or any thinking around what can be done around the enforcement piece that you can share with us? Because I think, just kind of being honest here. I mean, as much as we hear about the tax piece, which is more, I'm hearing where folks are coming from. There's also this other side of it. I didn't see it, or maybe I missed it in your presentation. I just want to allow for you to elaborate a little bit on some thinking around the enforcement.
I mean, one thing I've heard is DCR should not be DCR, should be DC or DCE, DC, Department of Cannabis Enforcement, and then use some of that money for that. But I think back to the point, I feel there's a lot of money, a lot of efforts, pots of money being thrown towards enforcement, and nothing has happened. So I don't know off the top of my head what I think is a good solution to stop the illegal activity. I'm for that. However, just focusing on the tax matter, I'm here trying to provide more solutions towards tax.
Thank you. And then you want to add, Chris?
I just want to get clarification. Are you asking us for suggestions on how to shut down illicit shops? We're not. I think you guys have more resources than we do to be able to talk to other departments in the city to come up with a plan. We're not city officials or city employees. I have people that I could reach out and get suggestions. But yeah, that's beyond us right now. But we could do the research again and provide it to you. It's just we don't have those resources at hand to even understand policy-wise and implementation-wise and city-wise of what that will take. But again, there are examples out there that we could research for you guys.
Oh, no. Sorry, this is Commissioner Farming. No, I wasn't asking that at all. What I was asking you specifically was that I thought that you did a really good job on the tax part. And my first clarification question was around the enforcement and the tax problem. I didn't hear anything on the enforcement side, so I was just asking if you had any ideas around that, because we have had operators that have come before us with some ideas, including what we've heard from the prior operators. So I just wanted to see if there was something that I missed, or if there was something that you wanted to add. But I heard you.
Understood.
Thank you.
Hi, this is President Mason. Actually, Mr. Martinez did kind of touch on something, and that was about reallocating or allocating some funds to LAPD to increase enforcement. And so I do have a question for you about that. Not that I disagree with it, but to the Angelino who is not in the cannabis industry, who already thinks that LAPD is overfunded, how would you justify giving LAPD more money to do something they're already very well funded to do?
Again, I'm not a policymaker, but I think Luis.
I would say, I think it's about rediverting some of the funds or holding them accountable. I mean, right now, I know there's funds, let's say, for compliance and holding legal operators, so rediverting that funds to the illegal operator, to work with those. Also rediverting some cannabis tax, specifically earmarking that, for enforcement of illegal shops. So I'm not sure how the earmarks going back. We're not experts here, but there is, I don't think any of the money is going back, or all of it may be going to different departments. And then also adding some for us for social equity and licensees to get some of the enforcement money or stuff like that as well.
Thank you. I hear you both, and I get that you're not policymakers, but I mean, come on, we live in a world where everybody does have an opinion, and that's why I asked that question, because I do hear it out and about, why give the LAPD more money for, and so I was just wondering if you had any thoughts on that. That's all.
Just
no harm.
One thought came to mind too. I mean, there's a lot of research and data out there that shows the illicit markets or the illicit shops. Maybe there's something we could do aside from LAPD with DCR and the commission to identify those illicit shops, put it on the website, let people know that they exist, and that way, hopefully, that could give some information out that could help us kind of go around it or fight it.
I like that. Thank you. I'm going to be quiet again. We have two more commissioners and 2 minutes.
This is Vice President Nash. Thank you for your presentation. Have you submitted a copy of your presentation to the department?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure that all the commissioners get a copy of anything that's submitted, and I encourage everybody to submit one. During your presentation, you indicated that you believe that the social equity operator fees were higher than non-social equity operators. Could you elaborate on that?
My understanding is that we pay an additional a legal review fee for the social equity agreements. I'm not 100% certain, but that's where I recall there being comments in previous meetings that our fees are actually higher, and so that's what I recall from us paying the additional fees. You're not required to have that review and that legal review under a regular license.
And to your knowledge, is that the only additional fee you're aware of?
Are you aware of any other ones?
I think that might be the only additional figure.
Okay, thank you very much.
This Commissioner Bierman, I have a quick question. First of all, thanks for the presentation. Luis, nice to see you. It's been a minute. But I wanted to ask about, I understand the other line items that go into all of the tax that's paid for retail dispensaries. And so if tomorrow the city's, cannabis tax went to zero, like, would that be low enough to then compete with the black market? Like, how would that impact, given that there are still a bunch of other taxes that, are going to be paid, like, at the state level?
Well, I mean, it's definitely going to help for sure. You're going to turn a lot of people back onto the legal market. I think that's right now. I'd say 60% of the people are shopping illegally. Still, I would say probably 70 to 80 are probably looking to shop legally after this excise tax hike, at least 10% more. So, I think it's kind of the same way in the inverse. If we're lowering taxes, there's a percentage there of people that are going to come back to the legal market.
Makes sense. Thanks.
All right, you're right on time. Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Sosa, you are up next. Following him will be Evelyn Scott.
Which button? This one?
Please state your name and you'll have 15 minutes to address the commission.
Greetings, commissioners. My name is Daniel Sosa. Thank you so much for having this meeting today. It's long overdue, and I hope that some quality, well thought out recommendations come out of it. I'm a lifelong Los Angeles resident. Is this thing? Okay, there we go. I opened La Brea Collective in 2007. It's a pre-ICO dispensary, owned and operated it for 18 years. I also own and operate Fig Trees, Dr. Green Thumbs West LA, and Dr. Green Thumbs Canoga Park. They are all social equity dispensaries. I want to talk a little bit about the history and how we got to this point. Starting back in 1996, California voters passed Prop 215 with 56% of voters voting in favor. 2006 and 2007, medical cannabis dispensaries began to proliferate in Los Angeles. That's when I opened my first dispensary. 2007, the city council passed the interim control ordinance. Its stated purpose was to protect the public health, safety, and welfare by establishing a temporary moratorium on the establishment and operation of medical marijuana dispensaries while the city considers and adopts permanent land use and operational regulations. 2007 to 2012, legal and quote-unquote illegal dispensaries in Los Angeles thrive without regulation and overtaxation. Hash bars and consumption lounges emerge. as a new social phenomenon contributing to the popularity of dispensaries. In July of 2012, City Council unanimously bans dispensaries despite emotional public outcry and testimonials from medical cannabis patients. 3 months later, in October, they reversed course after intense public opposition and threats of litigation. The City Council overturned the ban by a vote of 11 to 2. In 2013, Proposition D was put to the voters by City Council. It passed with a 62% approval rate. It banned all dispensaries but granted limited immunity to a select few dispensaries that had registered under the ICO in 2007. Important to note that Prop D also banned on-site consumption, which is still banned today, and for my dispensaries, sales never recovered from pre-2013 levels. Then came state legalization. In 2016, Prop 64 passed in California with a 57% passage rate statewide. 65% of Los Angeles voters voted in favor. Prop 64 explicitly gave cities and counties the authority to regulate commercial cannabis activity within their jurisdictions and create their own zoning restrictions. 2017, the Department of Cannabis Control was formed to regulate cannabis statewide. On January 1st, 2018, legalization and regulation went into effect overnight. Taxes skyrocketed overnight. All products had to be prepackaged overnight. And consumers flock to the illicit market. And sales, once again, never recovered to pre-2018 levels. What was the City of LA's response to legalization? In 2017, after immense political pressure from the cannabis industry and the threat of an industry-backed measure, City Council agreed to put Measure M to the voters. Measure M passed with over 80% in the City of Los Angeles. Measure M gives City Council the full authority to regulate, license, and tax cannabis businesses. This was the city's first step toward actually regulating cannabis businesses in Los Angeles. 22 years after the passage of Prop 215 and 10 years after the ICO in 2007. Also in 2017, City Council passed their ordinances regulating commercial cannabis, which included establishing the social equity program. The promises of Measure M. We, the cannabis industry, agreed to drop our industry-backed measure and to support Measure M, which gave City Council the full authority to regulate cannabis. We, the cannabis industry, agreed to a maximum of 10% tax on adult use and 5% tax on medical in exchange for a promise from City Council to enforce against illegal dispensaries. Needless to say, this is about how it's gone. With the city, I don't even think they're trying as hard as that guy's trying. I want to discuss social equity and its intent. LA's social equity program was explicitly created to acknowledge, repair, and rectify the harm caused by the war on drugs. Its official stated purpose: to promote equitable ownership and employment opportunities in the cannabis industry in order to decrease disparities in life outcomes for marginalized communities directly impacted by the war on drugs. Knowing what we know today and how it's gone, this is how I would read social equity's intent. To symbolically acknowledge the harms of the war on drugs by creating a maze of bureaucratic hurdles so complex and expensive that only the most well-capitalized or litigation-ready applicants survive, and even then, just barely. Through a combination of excessive taxation, inconsistent enforcement, delayed processing, and regulatory red tape, we aim to ensure that the path to equity is as narrow, expensive, and confusing as possible. While promoting public narratives of justice and inclusion, we pledge to systematically overtax those attempting to do it right, allow illicit operators to thrive unchecked, and maintain a licensing structure that rewards those with the deepest pockets or closest ties to City Hall. Ultimately, our goal is to create the appearance of equity while ensuring the business environment is so hostile that equity applicants either give up, go broke, or sell their licenses to corporate entities for pennies on the dollar. In doing so, we honor our true mission to protect the city's revenue stream, shield ourselves from accountability, and manage the cannabis economy in a way that's just efficient enough to resemble progress, but not enough to actually achieve it. The reality of the cannabis industry in Los Angeles and social equity is that Los Angeles dispensaries owe an average of over $1 million in tax debt to the city, an average of over $1 million in tax debt to the state. Dispensaries are closing and laying off employees. Unlicensed dispensaries continue to proliferate throughout Los Angeles. The harms of cannabis prohibition are being perpetuated in a different form: excessive taxation. I think this cartoon speaks for itself. This chart demonstrates our tax rates versus some other products, I guess you could say, in the city of Los Angeles. Adult use taxed at 10%, medical cannabis taxed at 5%, alcohol, tobacco, gasoline, pornography, firearms, prescription medicine don't even register on the chart because they are taxed at a fraction of 1% in the city of Los Angeles. And those industries don't have to compete against an illicit market. This chart comes from the California Cannabis Market Outlook Report commissioned by the California Department of Cannabis Control, which I actually included and sent to all you guys. It's a good read. 40% of sales in California are legal versus 60% are illicit. And this chart represents the whole state of California. In Los Angeles, the disparity is much greater as the vast majority of unlicensed dispensaries in the state of California are right here in the city of Los Angeles. Here's an excerpt from the Market Outlook report that I just referenced. Local taxes, fees, and restrictions increase the costs for licensed businesses and can result in an effective local tax rate of more than 30%. It's really more than 40%. Working to lower local restrictions, taxes, and fees for the licensed cannabis businesses would support the licensed market. These barriers to entry create advantages for unlicensed businesses, straight from the report commissioned by the DCC. The main issue remains is that overtaxation is killing our industry. There is no money left. Most dispensaries are in massive debt. What can the Cannabis Commission do to help? Please make a recommendation to City Council to lower the tax rate to 1% or less for adult use and 0% for medical. Which, by the way, even if we lower it to 1%, we'll still be paying more taxes than all those other industries: alcohol, tobacco, porn, guns. The City Council has the power to do this under Measure M. Here's an excerpt. I also sent you guys all a copy of Measure M. The City Council may impose the tax authorized by this section at a lower rate and may establish exemptions, incentives, or other reductions as otherwise allowed by the charter and state law. A couple other things you guys could suggest and make recommendations include giving a tax credit to dispensaries, particularly social equity dispensaries. the amount, I don't know, 50,000, 100,000 more, you know? Another suggestion, turn the DCR into, instead of the Department of Cannabis Regulation, turn them into the Department of Cannabis Enforcement. And have them focus on closing the illegal dispensaries, unlicensed dispensaries. We already have the DCC. We're being regulated by the state already. Look at those smiling faces. This picture represents about a third of my staff. They love what they do. They're great at what they do. And I would love to keep these people employed. Let's fix this together, guys. Thank you for your time today.
This is President Mason. Mr. Sosa, thank you for being here and for the levity in your presentation, even though it's not a laughing matter. Sometimes we have to have those moments even in the midst of the storm. So thank you for that. I am going to open it up to the remaining commissioners at this time.
Your time starts now, 15 minutes.
This is Vice President Nash. Thank you very much for your presentation. And I read it earlier, and I actually didn't find it as humorous as I did this time when you were presenting it. You know, the satire, even though it is a very serious topic. I've got a question. On your presentation, you identify the Measure M promises. And, you know, I'm not attacking you with this question. I'm curious and want to know the basis for your statement here. You indicate that we, the cannabis industry, agreed to a maximum of 10% on adult use and 5% tax on medical in exchange for a promise from City Council to enforce against illegal dispensaries. Was that an implicit or an explicit promise in your opinion?
I mean, you know, I think they promised to do their best to close the illegal dispensaries. You know, that was part of the deal. Like, that's why we agreed to 10% tax, because if there's no such thing as illicit dispensaries, maybe that tax works. But frankly, what we've seen over the past 15 years plus is that it's just not possible to close these places. You can close one, it's going to open up over here. It's just not it's not something that's possible, frankly.
Well, you know, you've shown that you're very knowledgeable about the history of everything. So I want to know, for my own benefit and for my own use, in what manner was that exchange made?
It was an explicit promise when we were negotiating with the city and agreeing to drop our industry back to measure, and we agreed to give the city council the full authority. The city council looked us in the eye and promised us to close the illegal stores.
Was that on the record?
No.
Could I?
I mean, it's on the record in the laws that they've done. You know, it's on the record in the ordinances and stuff. But no, it's not officially on the record.
Okay.
The conversation I'm referring to.
Mm-hmm. You know, because I share with you, you know, the concern about the lack of enforcement, and it's an obvious problem to the legal market. But if there was something that was on the record, it would be more beneficial. So that was why I was inquiring.
Mm-hmm. You know, the biggest issue is overtaxation. That's solved 90% of our issues. If we were taxed at 1%, I don't even care about the unlicensed dispensaries. At least I can compete against them. You know?
Well, you know, to that point, I appreciate you bringing that up. you would still be subject to a 19% state tax that the illegal dispensaries wouldn't be subject to. So how would you compete?
The lowering the tax from 10% to 1% or less would give us a lot of room to be able to compete. And we compete in other ways. You know, we compete in the quality of our staff, the quality of our products. There are other ways that we compete. That's how we're still alive. That's how we're still here. But we're not thriving, and we're you know, a lot of us are going out of business. And going into massive debt. You know, it's a really, really challenging time. I've been doing this for 18 years. My numbers are lower today than they have been over the entire course of my 18-year history operating dispensaries.
Do you think things like excessive rent charges, is that also a big factor in the legal dispensary's ability to compete?
It's a contributing factor, but it's a very, very small factor compared to the taxes. I mean, just numbers wise. I mean, the amount of money, the checks I write to the city are massive. They are much larger than the checks I'm writing to my landlord.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you for the wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Bierman. I just have a couple questions, and sort of piggybacking off of what Commissioner Nash was asking. Like, if the state is just gone from 15 to 19%, like, and the city were to go from 10 to 1, it strikes me as still a pretty small, like, margin of improvement. So I'm curious to know just your perspective on, like, how much that would improve things, given that there will still be quite a bit of taxes to be paid, outside of this particular tax.
It's going to improve things significantly. I mean, first of all, the excise tax rate, I don't expect that increase to last very long. Governor Newsom has already indicated that he will sign a bill freezing that increase. We just have to wait for it to pass through the legislature and hit his desk. So I don't think that the state increase is going to last very long. Yeah, I mean, a 9 or 10% reduction is going to be huge for our industry.
Understood. Is that state legislation like this session, or it's?
Yeah, I mean, I think the state house already passed it unanimously, 74 to nothing.
Yeah.
And we're just waiting for it. I don't know the exact process, but we're waiting for it to continue through the legislative process and hit the governor's desk. He's already said he would sign it.
Or what is that bill? You know?
It was through the funding process.
Oh, gotcha. And I guess I have one other question, and it might be a bit far afield, but given I'm sort of new to this, I'm trying to understand how unlicensed dispensaries have, access to so much product, or I'm trying to understand it. Is it the same product, or is it a sort of, pipeline of everything being unlicensed from manufacturing all the way to?
There's a huge, as you could see from the previous slide, I mean, 60% of the market is illegal market. I mean, there's a massive underground economy that's much larger than the legal economy for cannabis. So I mean, you know.
But I guess, does legally manufactured cannabis end up in illegal dispensaries, or is it the entire thing, from end to end, unregulated? If you know.
It's possible, but I mean, it's probably, I think cultivators, manufacturers, I think are trying to figure out ways to stay afloat too, and probably some of that ends up on the illicit market. But probably there's also people still just, growing weed in their garages or in warehouses that are completely unlicensed. I mean, there's more unlicensed product than licensed product. It's a massive economy, the illicit market.
Yeah. Thanks for your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
You're good. Okay. Give me just a moment. So I'm going to revisit a question I asked earlier because in my mind, I think that today, I think that we need at least two different types of tax structures. I think that those who are vertically integrated should not be taxed and feed the way that they are versus someone who is a sole proprietor. There, that gap needs to be narrowed some kind of way. So I wanted to ask you the question I asked earlier, which is, and if you don't have an answer, that's fine too, no harm. What would taxation look like for a business? What would be your ideal taxation picture for a business that is vertically integrated?
Well, I'm not vertically integrated, but I think the taxes. I mean, I have distribution, but I'm not a cultivator. But I think the taxes should just need to be as low as possible. Is just the bottom line. They need to be lowered as much as possible in order to give our industry a chance to survive and maybe an outside chance to thrive at some point.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I don't have any other questions. Commissioners, do you?
No.
Anything else you want to share?
And I just really hope that we get something out of this. I really hope that you guys give some quality recommendations, and I hope the city council takes it seriously. You know, I think we have to ask ourselves what's important to us. Is it public health and safety? Is it the success of the cannabis industry? Is it the success of the social equity program? Or is it just revenue generation for the city at all costs? You know, and I think these are the important questions that we really should be asking ourselves.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
The time is 5:37. We're going to take a brief recess. The goal is to be back in about 20 minutes. Thank you. The time is 6:04 and we are reconvening at this time. We are on to presenter number 4, and that would be Evelyn Scott. Following Evelyn will be Kika Keith.
Please state your name and you have 15 minutes to address the commission.
Hi, my name is Evelyn Scott. I don't have any slides or anything, so I really hope that you guys listen clearly and please give me some attention. Thank you. Um, Good afternoon. My name is Evelyn Scott, founder of the Brinson Consulting Group, doing business as the Green Paradise. I'm also a member of the Black Los Angeles Cannabis Council. I came into this program with hope. I believed in the vision, but what we've been handed is overtaxation and a complete lack of enforcement, while illegal, unlicensed shops flourish just steps away from my store. The heart of this crisis: overtaxation and illicit shops. Let's be clear. We are being taxed into extinction, while unlicensed operators are protected by negligence. Legal operators pay excise tax, state tax, city business tax, use tax, sales tax. That's tax on tax on tax with no relief, no exemptions, and no capital access to help offset the burden. Meanwhile, unlicensed dispensaries pay zero taxes, sell unregulated, unsafe product, operate in broad daylight with no enforcement, undercut us by 30 to 50% in price, and face no shutdowns. There are illegal shops in walking distance from my store, openly violating every law we've worked so hard to comply with. And yet we are the ones barely staying alive. The impact on legal operators. Legal businesses like mine are being set up to fail. We're not losing to the market. We're losing to the lack of political will to protect us. We cannot compete with people who have no overhead, no payroll, no tax burden, and no compliance costs. And yet we are the ones under constant scrutiny, paying fees, filing paperwork, and struggling to stay afloat. This is my story, and it's just one of many. I opened the Green Paradise in January 2021 as a social equity operator, phase 3, round 1. After years of hardship tied to the war on drugs, I invested my life savings, I hired staff, I followed the law. And I've watched this system chew us up with endless taxes, late fees, triggered by the DCR delays, no access to capital, no enforcement against nearby illegal shops. I've stood at the DCR front desk begging for clarity. I paid outrageous late fees for something we submitted on time. I've cried more than once wondering if I would survive another month. I'm in debt. I'm not alone in this. Ask any legal operator in South LA. This isn't business. It's a slow death. Here's a call to action. Enough is enough. We don't need more meetings. We need urgent, visible, and measured action. Enforce the law. Shut down unlicensed shops immediately. Target the hotspots. Reform the tax structure and tax on tax policies that are crippling legal operators. Offer tax relief for licensed social equity business. Launch an emergency relief fund for operators drowning in debt. Create a visible task force to investigate and remove illicit storefronts operating near legal dispensaries, and really do it. How can we survive when we're being punished for doing the things the right way? This is not a sustainable model. You are watching the legal market collapse in real time while the illegal ones thrive. If Los Angeles doesn't act now, If the DCR doesn't protect legal operators, there won't be any left to protect. We are overtaxed, we are underprotected, and unless something changes, immediately we will be gone. Don't let equity become another broken promise. We followed the rules. You all broke the system. Real solutions for LA cannabis crisis. Aggressively enforce enforcement against illegal shops. Immediate task force development. Fund and deploy a joint task force, DCR, LAPD, the building and safety, to shut down illegal shops, especially those operating near licensed locations. Public reporting and dashboard. Let the residents and businesses report illegal operators and track the enforcement. There should be a tracking system and a padlock authority. How about just padlocking these places that you know are illegally selling product and putting our community in danger? Reform the tax structure. End tax on tax compounding. Reform local taxation so taxes are calculated fairly and not stacked. Suspend and reduce city business tax. We just need relief, you guys. Reduce the rate for social equity license. Create a tier tax model. Lower the rates. Bottom line, we don't need more workshops. We need enforcement, relief, and reform. And we need it now. Now. These changes can save equity businesses, stabilize the legal market, and show the city is serious about justice and not just revenue. We're not here to survive a broken system. We're here to break it open and rebuild something better. Thank you.
Hi,
I
this
yield my
is-
time.
Are you sure?
I am.
Okay, thank you. This is President Mason. Thank you, Ms. Scott, for being here. And you were concise and to the point,
Well, thank you.
and I appreciate that. I am going to open up Q&A for the remaining commissioners at this time.
The clock starts at 15 minutes.
Commissioner Farley. All right. Thank you, Evelyn. I don't think you needed no PowerPoint. I heard you loud and clear. I'm interested. Something that kind of struck me that you were speaking to around like the task force. Can you talk about that a little bit? I think you said the DCR. You said someone else.
Yes, just a combination of all of the departments basically coming together. And that's the DCR, LAPD, and building and safety. Because you guys, I think you have the authority to do that. And I feel like it's just not being forced. I feel like if you guys were to speak up and actually do something about the city of LA tax, then that gives us a pathway to speak with the state about their tax. We know that there is tax, and just LA tax is not going to change things, but that's where it starts. And we need you guys to start and do something. We have these meetings and nobody is stepping up. There is no motion. I'm hoping today that there is a motion put in place, that there is something that we can do and not just listen to my peers and we sit last minute putting together PowerPoints and putting together all of this information and you guys do nothing. That takes away from things that we really could be doing to make an impact. So we're here not just to come here and waste our time. We're here because we need change. And at this point, nobody is doing anything. I don't even understand why this commission is even formed. I understand it to an extent, but if you're not going to bring the issues to the forefront and demand that the city help us and make changes, then what are you doing? Because basically you're wasting your time. From my understanding, you're not even getting paid to be here. So what are we doing? And then why don't you know some of the answers that you're asking us? Who's putting this together? Are you really wanting change to happen? Because it doesn't feel like it, doesn't look like it either. Because as far as I know, you guys don't have an eviction notice. And you're not in millions of dollars of debt. So how can you help me? What am I here doing right now?
I appreciate that. I'm speaking for myself. Look, you all are operators. You all know the business. You do the work. I don't do the work, right? So my intent in asking you the questions is so that we can understand exactly what's happening. I hear your frustration. I do. I'm being completely honest and keeping it 100 in the room. I just want to make sure that we've had a lot of operators that have come before us. Some have kind of spoken just out of frustration. Some have come with solutions. Some have come with ideas. But just speaking as someone on this commission, I'm asking because you all do the work. You all are experiencing the things that you're sharing not only with us but here in this forum. And I think the only way in my opinion, that you get to any sort of solution around what's being highlighted is if you understand what's happening. And I'm not going to sit up here and pretend like I know what that is, but I do know that you all do. And that is really the intent of my question. So just so you can hear it from me in terms of why I'm asking the questions. And so I really appreciate, I did hear around the task force. I thought that was something that kind of caught my attention.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other piece that I wanted to ask you a question on is regarding uh, the situation you spoke to illicit um, shops that are near your shops, and you specifically highlighted. Oh, I kind of hear you on specifically targeting the illicit shops that's near the legal shops. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because you said the rationale around doing it near the legal shop versus kind of having a comprehensive approach around shutting
Well,
them
you
down.
know, all the shops that are illicit should be closed, but the ones that are near literally walking distance, and I wish I had the footage where you can literally see that you can walk outside of my door and there is the bus stop and then there's a smoke shop. This smoke shop is operating as a smoke shop, but the reality of it is they're not a smoke shop. They are selling cannabis. I've had several people to go in as decoys to go in to buy to see if this is really happening, and it is. And it's right next door, and it's killing my business. It's just killing it. And it's terrible, and it's bringing all kinds of nonsense and danger to my store. Robberies, trash, prostitution. It's just there, and it's right there, and nobody's doing anything about it. And I've reported it on several occasions. And you guys, they're still operating and nothing has happened. And that's an issue. And there is no tracking system. And that's why I mentioned that. We should have something in place where if you're going to close a shop, we should see in real time what's happening. Because the truth of the matter is, if it's been since 20, I don't care if it's 5 years ago since you shut a shop down. They're not being shut down, and they're opening right back up. And so the fact of the matter is, I don't think you guys can close the shops. And so that's why we're saying, okay, well, give us some tax forgiveness. Let us compete a little bit, and we can. We can because the prices are there. They don't. You know, the customers just want good quality cannabis at a great price. And you are pushing them to go to what they know because the reality of it is that's where it started. So if you can go to your homeboy and go get you something for $10, you're not coming to a shop to pay that same price plus tax on top of it. That's just not happening. And so we have to just change it. And we need tax relief. We're in debt, guys. We are in debt, drowning in it. And I thought I was in debt before I opened my doors. Michelle, I can remember speaking with you, telling you how bad I wanted to open my doors and how I was just wanting to just generate revenue. And you did make it clear that there was some tax laws and some issues that was there. But the fact that you know that, and we sit here and we know that we have to make some changes, this is not okay. And no, I'm not a politician. I don't write the laws or anything. I do my research when needed. Not that I want to. This is not why I got into this. I got into this to be an entrepreneur, to be a salesperson, a saleswoman that I've been my whole career. I switched over from being an insurance agent to come into this and to just nothing. And this is not fair. It takes everything in me to not bawl and be strong and stand with my head up. But deep inside, this is killing us. And nobody is doing anything. Nothing. The workshops? Nothing, guys. It's not giving us what we need.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
This is President Mason. I hear your frustration, and I can speak for at least three of us at this dais that if we could snap our fingers and create the change that's needed, we would have done it without having this meeting. One of the reasons why we are here is because back in the beginning of February, we were presented with information about taxes and arrears in the industry. And it was like, well, how did we get here? We had all these questions, but we couldn't get answers because the item wasn't agendized. As time went on, we understood as a commission to make a well-rounded decision, a decision that, or recommendations that weren't top down, that were well informed. It was important to hear from the people who are boots on the ground every day. And that's why we are here today. I absolutely get that you have other places that you could be, but the way my integrity is structured, I could not participate in making recommendations that are top down and without hearing from you all first. So I hope you can appreciate that. It may not hit you now, as my pastor says, but maybe you will understand when you get home later. I just wanted to throw that out there. I travel frequently on La Brea. I know exactly where Field and Legal Shop is in proximity to your store. And she is not exaggerating. It's not 5 feet away. It's maybe 10 feet away from their front door. I have my own thoughts about why they are positioned that way, why illegals post up, if you will, against legal operators. And it's the same reason why we see some gas stations at some intersections where there's one in every corner. It's potentially intended to be a magnet to draw your businesses away from you. And I totally understand that. And some of you in this room know that I have been sitting on this commission the longest. I have talked about enforcement in the past. I am not against it. We have to drive the point home. Someone said something earlier about advertisements, and the first thing that came to my mind was, gee, I wish we could do a top 10 most wanted illegal operators billboard and post it all across the city, just to make consumers aware of where not to go. But I understand that there may be some concerns from risk regarding potential lawsuits in doing so, but at this point, we have to find solutions and stop being averse to litigation as a result of trying to implement those solutions. And so that's just me giving my speech. Commissioner Nash, I'll turn it over to you.
This is Vice President Nash. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
I have great sympathy for the position that you are in. You mentioned tax on tax a couple times, and I understand that that did exist for a while, but it's also my understanding that it no longer exists. Do you believe it currently exists?
Well, it currently exists. I've spoken with my CPA, and she's brought numbers back and brought it to my attention that that the excise tax that we're collecting, that tax that we're having to actually pay tax on that. Um, so that's tax on tax, which is illegal.
That's different than my understanding, but I'll definitely look into that a little further.
For sure, and I'll do further research myself. But looking at the numbers, it's just multiple tax. And before, when the tax was on the cultivators, it didn't hit as hard and we were able to make some payments. But when the excise tax changed over to retail, it made a huge difference in my business and it's been declining ever since that change occurred, along with the constant tax increase.
Regarding the enforcement, you mentioned that there's an illegal shop right near you,
Hmm.
and I'm sure you've reported it to the police. And you know, I'm consistently shocked that nothing happens, and I just want to hear what your experience has been when you report it, and if you have a relationship with the lead officer, uh, whatever you can tell me about that particular problem.
Well, I've reached out, I've reported it. I've talked to my landlord about it. He says that he doesn't have any evidence that this guy is doing anything illegal, but of course he would say that. No landlord is going to say, "Oh yeah, hey, I know he's selling unlicensed
Can I
product."
interrupt you for 1 second? The same landlord?
Same.
Really?
Yeah, we're in I'm in the way my store is designed, I'm in a storefront per se. So there are several other businesses surrounding me and it's only getting worse day by day. So
So if I could illustrate for you, it's one block. It's a building divided into multiple businesses. So she has the corner spot, and then two doors down is the illicit operator, and then
one door down.
one door. I'm sorry, is
Not
the
even a door, it's a bus stop and then it's him. Not even a door.
I drive fast, and then there are other businesses on the block. But again, it's just one concrete structure divided up into parceled into multiple businesses.
Unfortunately, we're running out of time, but I do want to share an experience. We've had one operator that has come before us, and he claims that he has an excellent relationship with various people in the Los Angeles Police Department, and he gets things done. And so I don't know that it'll work for you, but I would encourage you to have a relationship with your lead officer and whoever else you can communicate with the LAPD, and continue to work as hard as you can to get that done. And in the meantime, recommendations will be made by this commission. Hopefully that will help.
Thank you.
Next up is Kika Keith. Following Kika will be David Powells. Hope I said that correctly.
Please state your name and you have 15 minutes to address the commission.
Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Kika Keith. I am the founder of Gorilla RX Wellness Co., the first Black woman-owned social equity dispensary in Los Angeles, and also co-chair of the Black Los Angeles Cannabis Council.
I'm Madison Shockley, the third owner of the Cadre Dispensary in South Los Angeles and the co-chair of the Black Los Angeles Cannabis Council.
Are we able to, we attached a video. You have that on your, to our email. It was actually a video and as a part of the email.
Are we able to pause their time while we work out the technical presentation, if there is one? Josie? I'm sorry? Their clock is running. Oh, okay.
Can we regain some of our time? She just said they're unable to play it. I'll play the audio of it, but we did attach it to our presentation.
I believe you received a response to your email, and that we only received.
I've been sitting in here not looking at my phone and paying attention. I
Yeah,
sent it once I made the once you told us to put the email attachment. Once we got our speaker number outside, I have not looked at my phone since I've been in the chambers.
Did we not receive the presentation? Or are we not able to show it?
Yes.
Hi, this is Deputy City Attorney Emily Wada. I'm just going to state for the record that you were sent an email stating that the video file could not be played because it was not an electronic file that was listed in our rules for today. That said, we will be restarting your time at the 15-minute mark.
Thank you. What I'm going to play now is Council President Marquise Harris Dawson in 2017 speaking in this here chamber about the intent of the social equity program, which is critical, and it lays the foundation to why we're here, why we believed, and also the responsibility of the city of Los Angeles.
And recognition of what we are on the cusp of doing with regard to our social equity program. You see the number of arrests for cannabis related activities in the city of Los Angeles, and this really applies to the whole nation, but just for us to be accountable for what happens here in Los Angeles. And you consider, as has been stated twice this morning, that cannabis use is even across demographics, certainly a little bit more male than female, a little bit more white than other groups. But when you look at the arrests, the citations, the sort of stop and frisks for cannabis related activities, there is not one category where African Americans and Latinos don't represent at least 75% of the people confronted by us on that issue. And African Americans are less than 10% of the population. Latinos are around half the population. So the disproportionate targeting of African Americans and Latinos is well documented almost any way you slice it. And so here we have an opportunity to deal with that. And we have a few choices. We can take it head on and try to do something bold, try to lead the nation, or we can try to act like it didn't happen and say, oh, well, we're all even now. It's all been decriminalized. We're going to move on as if everybody's starting from zero. And what we have before us and what we're in the process of crafting is a policy that acknowledges what has been done, seeks to correct it, and lays out a way for us to be accountable for correcting it. And so I was in.
So we wanted to share that to lay out what was stated about the repair of this program. And what he talked about was the racial disparity between the arrest and how the city of Los Angeles treated people of our community, and why this program was going to be a bold step into being reparative. And he said, we have a choice to act like nothing ever happened and act like we're all starting from zero, or we can do something bold and address this harm. And what's actually happened is the city has acted like nothing ever happened, and we started from zero. So we just wanted to start with that to lay the foundation. And Kiki, you want to proceed with the presentation?
Certainly, the foundation is critical. As you've heard in most of the recommendations today for social equity, we are a special class. We were brought into this program on a promise that we believed. I know folks that have left their homes, sold their homes, lost their life savings to start in this program, and it was based on the words of the city council. Vice President, you asked the one gentleman, was it on the record? It's on the record. You can see above Marquise Harris Dawson once again saying specifically that this is an equity-driven industry that protects neighborhood continuity. That was the goal of the social equity program. But we started from a deficit. These promises from the very beginning, we were left with nothing. $10 million of funding for the social equity program was diverted to police enforcement in 2018 before the social equity program ever started. This was while we were holding on to properties. There was a mandate for social equity applicants to have a property in order to apply, and this herein lies the beginning of the problem. Why, before we ever opened, we were in debt over $250,000. It's also important to understand the intent of the social equity program, which has been brought up before, but it is very important, and I've included the ordinances in here. When we asked what were the promises, what are we complaining about, it was because it is in the letter of the law, and that is one thing, commissioners, that you have the right, and it is your responsibility to follow the letters of the law. The intent of the social equity program failed to provide licensing and compliance assistance once we got started. It didn't start till 4 years later. We didn't get general business assistance. We didn't know about how to set up our businesses, our pro formas, operating. We had no support. That funding went to enforcement. There was no fund for startup costs. It took 700 days in order to receive any grant funds while we were holding on to properties. Fee deferrals were not existing when we were holding on to these properties and having to pay for fees. A registry of investors to protect social equity applicants from predatory investors did not happen. Broken promises for the community. This wasn't just about, and look at the intent. There were 3 tenets. It was not just about priority licensing, but it was for employment, to create an industry where we could create jobs for our community. And it was also to address the disparities of the community that was affected by the war on drugs. Another broken promise. Look at the ordinance. There were supposed to be equitable employment opportunities. Failure for a social equity workers mandate. There was a mandate that all businesses had to hire social equity workers. Never happened. Never enforced by the DCR. Promises for social justice, a community fund for reinvestment, never happened. The tax dollars never went back to us and our communities.
So I'm going to interrupt, and I know that you want to point out issues with the entire program, but today we want to keep the conversation focused on taxation.
I'm sorry, I would have to refute that, President. And I say this, and this is the foundation for why we're behind on our taxes. You ask why?
Okay.
You ask why? Why was I over $700,000 in debt before I ever opened my doors? Why? Because I believed in these promises. I wouldn't have left the business that I had. I had a first to market beverage in Whole Foods that I left thinking it would be 90 days. From 2017, we were supposed to have priority processing 2-1. If you all, especially the new commissioners, don't understand the foundation, there's no way that you can fight on our behalf. Failure for corporate social responsibility. Important. Because we're competing with people who aren't doing those things that we held the tenants to. I opened a community center with money that I got from my dispensary. How? Other folks aren't doing these things. The predatory agreements. There was no enforcement of our predatory agreements. So most of us are holding debts because our investors left us with the tax debt. Because when they saw that it wasn't working money, they left us. They left us with no operational experience, which was promised to us. And you can see, to the extent that we had to file a lawsuit against the city of LA just to get licensed. You know how much money that cost us? Why the folks that are disadvantaged, that are low income, why do we have to file a lawsuit just to get my damn doors open? How much money did that take? That's more in debt before I ever opened my doors. And when I say I mean all of us in this room.
That's right.
When you look at this, the mismanagement, the funds that were supposed to go for startup costs, 700 days, they had over $7.8 million. I'm borrowing, we're lending, we're selling homes. We shouldn't have had to do that. They were holding on to $7.8 million for 700 days. It took me 1,340 days to open my door. I had spent $647,000 just in rent before I opened my doors because of the systematic delays. And that's all of us in this room. And I'm on Crenshaw Boulevard. There's no way that my rent should be $24,000 for an 1,800 square foot facility. Where was the help in that? And yes, that totally makes a difference. And then let's talk about where we're located. Because in South Central Los Angeles, and you can look from the city attorney's office, the proliferation of unlicensed stores are in South LA, south of the 10 freeway. Why? Because our council districts don't have the tax dollars in order to hedge the enforcement that's needed. They did it in downtown. It has been done. But there is no will. There's no political will. There's no will with the LAPD. There's no will with DCR. There's no will. This is not a priority, but what is that doing to us?
So this next part of the presentation is somewhat of a simulation. We want to share with you guys what it takes to be a profitable cannabis dispensary in this market. Do you all have the folder in front of you? We sent out handouts. Okay. So I want to describe what you're looking at here. This is a profitability table. Chair and commissioners, this tool is to help the commission better understand the structural financial barriers social equity operators face. A cannabis profitability table, and also a supplemental table that's color coded. So the methodology of this table is revenue refers to the total amount of money your business takes in from sales before subtracting any expenses. For cannabis retailers, revenue includes both the cost of the product and the markup added on top of that. So if you buy a product for $20 and you sell it for $40, your revenue is $40. The markup is the percentage added on top of your product cost. A 1x markup means you're charging double what you paid for the product. If you paid $20 and you sell it for $40, that's a 1x markup. A 0.5x markup is up by 50%. If you buy it for 20, you sell it for 30. Cost of goods sold is already embedded in your revenue number there, but it still must be subtracted along with your overhead to determine what your profit is. Overhead includes your operating expenses, rent, security, staff, insurance, licensing fees, accounting, inventory tracking, compliance costs. In our model, we assume a base overhead of $1.26 million per year, which is a conservative estimate based on the minimum it takes to run a compliant dispensary per year. We scale that overhead as revenue increases because as your business grows, your costs also grow. More staff, more inventory. But even that scaling is capped in this model at $4 million in expenses, which is very conservative. In the real world, many businesses doing 8 to 10 million in revenue have overhead well over 4 million. Finally, we apply a 42% effective tax rate to any remaining profit, which is consistent with what we're paying in taxes. What the data shows is when we ran this model across various markup levels, from a 0.5x markup to a 2x markup, is the revenue levels, and against revenue levels from 2 million up to 10 million, here's what we found. At lower markups of a 0.5x to 0.75x markup, which are very common in competitive neighborhoods, every single operator is losing money, even those bringing in $10 million a year. At a 1x markup, which is healthy but not easy to sustain because we're often discounting the price of product to compete with the illicit market, you don't start seeing meaningful profit until you hit 6 million a year. Even at 1.5 and 2x markup, many operators are still breaking even, especially if you're absorbing compliance penalties, startup delays, the price compression from competition. But here's where it becomes a policy failure. Most social equity operators are located in lower income communities where the illicit market is strongest. In these neighborhoods, unlicensed dispensaries don't pay taxes, don't follow compliance rules, or offer significantly lower prices, undercutting legal operators at every turn. So while legal operators in wealthier areas, like many other pre-ICOs, can get away with charging higher prices and markups, equity businesses in lower income areas can't. Not without losing their customers to the shop down the street, that's not paying any taxes. And uh, and yet, despite the disadvantage, our costs are just as high. My rent is $28,000 a month in South Central LA because that's how the property owners did all of us. If we wanted a property and we're social equity, they charged us that kind of rent. So it doesn't matter if I'm paying more than most people on the west side. So we can't mark our product up, and we're all losing money.
There's a snapshot of my P&L just to demonstrate this in real time in my first year, where you can see the costs, and I only put in compliant cost on there. You can see the cost of goods at 1.3. This is after I had revenue of $2 million. My rent was $126,000, utilities 20, payroll $180,000, security $185,000, liability insurance at 14, workers comp at $36,000. My total operation expenses was 1.8. You add the taxes of $531,000, I am at a negative. $2.4 million is total operating expenses and taxes. Now you can see on the right side why all of us are in tax debt. This is a common story that goes for all of us. We do have recommendations that we've included with the documents that you have as well.
Thank you both for being here. And what I really appreciate about this presentation, though, is the snapshot of your financial standing at 6 months.
President Mason, your 15 minutes starts now.
Thank you. I was going to say what I really appreciate is, well, I did say, what I do appreciate is the presentation of your financial snapshot after 6 months of operating. We are aware of all of the other overhead costs that are extremely disproportionate when compared with other retail type businesses in the city, because people heard cannabis and said, oh, they're going to make money, so am I. And that contributes to some of what we see here. Thank you for that. I am going to allow the other commissioners to ask questions at this time, but you know what, I'll go ahead and ask you for your recommendations.
Okay, so we have three specifically to address the taxes. Social equity tax reconciliation and remediation program is the first one. We recommend that you all get behind recommending that the Office of Finance and the Department of Economic Development develop a social equity tax reconciliation and remediation program to provide redress for tax liabilities incurred due to licensing delays, systemic barriers, and unregulated market encroachment. The scope of this program should include, but not be limited to, debt forgiveness, structured tax relief plans, tax credits, and a 2-year pause in tax collection from verified social equity businesses, providing immediate relief and time for stabilization.
Question.
Sure.
Is that this page? These 2 pages? Yes. Okay, thank you.
This program should be treated as a form of programmatic redress, directly aligned with the city's equity goals and responsive to the disproportionate burdens borne by social equity operators. Just want to add a point to this. Often when we ask about the prospect of a reduction in taxes for social equity, we're told that if we do it for social equity, we have to do it for everybody. But it's not true if you do it through tax credits. So one way to do it is not have a different tax rate for for social equity and everybody else. Have the same tax rate, but give us tax credits that make our effective tax payment lower. And that's also addressed in this next one here. The second solution is tiered cannabis tax structure with social equity credits. The recommendation is make a recommendation to support and in response to Council Member Imelda Padilla's June 25th motion made through the Budget and Finance Committee and Government Operations Committee, directing the City Administrative Office to explore the fiscal impacts of reducing the city's cannabis business tax to between 8% and 1.5%. The Cannabis Regulation Commission could recommend the adoption of the following framework. Establish a uniform cannabis business tax of 5% for all operators. Provide targeted tax credits to verified social equity businesses that lower their effective tax burden to as little as the 1.5% referenced in Councilmember Padilla's motion. And the motion is attached in the packet you've received as well. Implementation of this. Instruct the Chief Legislative Analyst and the Office of Finance in consultation with the Department of Economic Development and cannabis stakeholders to develop and implement this framework. This structure should be modeled after the City of Oakland's incremental tax policy, utilizing tax credits to achieve equity outcomes without requiring separate tax rates. The goal is this structure provides a fair and efficient path to tax equity, aligning with fiscal prudence while delivering real measurable support to the city's most impacted cannabis operators. And then the third recommendation is a public acknowledgement of the harm to social equity licensees. This recommendation is that the Cannabis Regulation Commission should and could issue a formal public acknowledgement of the harm experienced by social equity licensees due to delays, mismanagement, and systemic failures in the administration of the social equity program. This statement should mirror the approach taken by Illinois officials like Rep. LaShawn Ford and former state senator Patricia Van Pelt, who publicly recognized that their state's legalization efforts fell short of their equity goals and left communities floundering with no lifeboat and no help. This isn't the only place this has happened, but other regulators are acknowledging that it has happened. They're not pretending that nothing happened and that we're all starting from zero. And that's something that this commission could do. And those are our recommendations.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions?
All right. It's Commissioner Farmby. Real quick question right away that just kind of popped in my mind. Thank you for the presentation. This is very helpful. Straight to the point, easy to follow. And I really appreciate, kind of adding the, Ms. Keith, your own kind of spreadsheet here, kind of like outlining the 6 months. I had a quick question regarding the motion. What's the status of the motion that was presented on June 25th? Do you know?
It actually hasn't been put forward. Oh, Imelda's motion.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Padilla. I'm sorry. Yeah.
That was just introduced. And so now I know it will go through the committee route.
It's in committee.
Yes, it's in committee.
Which committee?
But one thing that we've noticed, commissioners, as we've made rounds through council, and the conversation continues to be, there's just not political will. And I remember even when we went to the mayor's office, they asked, what is the commission saying? And so your voice and your recommendations allow us, when we're going to these offices, to say that there's political will for them even to prioritize an interest in addressing this issue. Mind you, and Commissioner Mason, as you've been here from the beginning, there is a plethora of comments that you all can base recommendations. We are saying the same thing. This presentation I've made to the mayor, I've made to the Senate hearings, assembly hearings. We go to each council members and we show this. And there has yet to be a champion that says this is wrong and let's address it, because we could be thriving. We create jobs in our community. we contribute to our community, and most important, this is a public health and safety issue. We talk about enforcement. But if we don't enforce, and why this isn't a top priority, an executive directive from the mayor, then what you're dealing with is children that are going to these unlicensed stores and people having untested product. And so it's bigger than just the tax revenue. And I ask that we use that public health and safety issue, which you do all have in your purview as commissioners. You can deny a license, you can make recommendations when it's a public health and safety issue. If nothing else, let's lead with that while we have to address the illicit stores and why we have to make sure we stay in business. Because if my shop is closed on Crenshaw, there are 5 smoke shops literally on my block.
Ma'am,
Yes.
we only have 6.5 minutes left for Q&A.
No, thank you. I hear you. Thank you. And then I do have a question, and I guess this question would be for all operators, but since you're in front of me, I just want to ask you, right? So this notion around the landlords, because you spoke explicitly around the rent situation. I really do appreciate what you said. What are your thoughts around what role they play and with these illicit like shops that look, I mean, for an example, we had an operator earlier. Evelyn spoke about the one door over the same landlord, right? You have any thoughts around like how, because in my opinion, this looks like this is going to be a multi-pronged sort of approach, right? Like what role or what thinking you all have on the landlord piece?
So from our research on enforcement, there was the first wave of enforcement after recreational was passed, and that's that 10 million that was robbed from the social equity program. I used to shop at illegal dispensaries in downtown LA. They had the best prices and the best weed. When that wave of enforcement came through, all those shops got shut down. So however they did it, whether it was padlocking, turning off the water and power, I saw that happen. I would go into a shop and the light power would be off. They'd be operating on a generator, and then they'd get raided again. And the police did whatever they had to do until they got it shut down. And to this day, those shops haven't come back. But that hasn't ever happened in South LA. All right. So the money, it does take money to do it, but the LAPD's gotten $45 million to do it over the last 5 years. But there's a political, they've been told to stand down. The captains have said, we don't do cannabis enforcement. And part of it's political. Part of it, frankly, started with Black Lives Matter wanting to defund the police and them having to wear body cams now. The things they say to us is, we got to wear these body cams, so we're not doing enforcement for you guys. That's what they tell us straight up. That's the politics around how we got left out of enforcement, frankly. It's racist.
I'm sorry, just clarification, President. How long ago was that when you said the whole downtown and the
5 years ago?
So 2020.
Correct.
Okay. Thank
2019, 2020.
Okay.
This is Vice President Nash. You mentioned you spoke to someone that said there's no political will. Who have you spoken to that told you that?
Recently at the budget, the GO committee, Government Operations Committee, they had the head of the narcotics and gang division testify at the committee, and he himself, you want to play his comments?
We only have 3 minutes. How long are
We
his
may not have
comments?
time, but
we don't have much time.
The captain said himself that they haven't prioritized enforcement since legalization, and that's been the directive from the top. I've talked to other operators who talk to their local watch commander, who's told them the same thing about the body cams and why they don't do the enforcement. This is coming directly from LAPD. We've been in this chamber when we come to talk to city council, and we've had members of the LAPD say, hey, they told us not to do enforcement. It's not going to happen. You should open up an illegal shop. That's what LAPD is telling us.
Okay. I'm glad I clarified that, because when you originally said it, I thought you were speaking about a council member. But it looks like that primarily.
Talking about LAPD members.
Got it. Thank you very much.
But I can say from talking with council members, the conversation that the city attorney, the previous city attorney, did not have the will to effectuate the policies that are in place. There are padlocking policies that are in place. There are fines for property owners at $20,000 a day. Why is no one going to Evelyn's property owner and fining him $20,000 a day? I bet you he would close that store tomorrow, right? They're not enforcing it. And so that's the problem, again, why we're asking for the support and why we're saying we have been harmed. The tax debt that we have, really, we should be charging you all. We should be filing a claim of damages because we have been open without the support, even though there was funding. $45 million did go to enforcement. So why in 2025 is the police captain of narcotics saying that we have not enforced illegal shops since legalization?
I agree. Lack of enforcement is a huge problem, and I honestly don't understand it. I don't understand the lack of will because it is shooting yourself in the foot, the illegal market, by not enforcing it. And I mean, that's clear as day.
Can I add something to that? In our
course.
conversations with the mayor's office, the mayor has talked to the city attorney about doing enforcement, and they are coming up with plans to do a new wave of enforcement. The problem is we're not going to be around to benefit from it. Our locations are going to be taken up from people who don't look like us, and they're going to benefit from the enforcement, while we're going to be driven to the illicit market, and they're going to enforce on us. Because that's the only way we're going to have any way to try to pay off this tax debt, unless you guys make recommendations to try to have it forgiven.
Okay, and since you mentioned that, I already know the answer, but I just want to put it on the record. You're of course going before the city council directly and asking for everything as well.
Absolutely. I've been here 5 times this week.
Great.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, Adam. David Powell's is next. And Madison, are you presenting again separately? Okay, David and then Madison. Is David here? Okay, thank you. Then Madison, you're back at the podium.
Please state your name and you have 15 minutes to address the commission.
Before you start, and after you, Christopher Martinez is gone. Yes, he is.
Yeah.
So then you are the last presenter.
Okay. I have some other comments I want to make as I think about it. They're not on the agenda, but I do want to let you guys know.
Please state your name.
Madison Shockley. I served the city and the commission and the cannabis department a lawsuit yesterday for trying to process my annual license when I'm on a temporary license that's renewable until 2031. And it's part of the scheme to rob us of the grant money. $7,600 was transferred to pay a fee waiver for my annual license application that I never submitted an application for. And now I'm going to be subject to paying more fees, environmental fees that were supposed to be covered by the LJAG grant, but apparently they've already given that money away to people who nobody actually applied for fee waivers. People were just summarily granted them, which is against the code. And so this was because the cannabis department was scrambling to make up for the $10 million that they apparently misspent or the state was challenging. And so we've had our money taken from us. I've had late fees added onto my applications. We've had all sorts of things done by the department to extract money from us. in a cash grab because they know we're not protected and they're threatening our licenses. They're saying if you don't pay this fee, your license will not be renewed and you will never be able to apply for another one in the future. Uh, and so under that kind of pressure, we're being extracted tens of thousands of dollars from us. And then nobody's saying anything about it. This commission has not addressed it. We've had members like Brandon Brinson come up here and talk about the legal dispensary next door. We've had him talk about the DCR charging him a late fee of $3,700.
I'm really sorry. This is
Yeah.
Deputy City Attorney Emily Wada. Mr. Shockley, I'm going to ask you to come back to the subject matter jurisdiction of this agenda item, which is cannabis taxation.
Yeah.
If you can draw that relation for us quickly, it would be very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I think I've made most of my point on that, so I'll move on. But I did want to say that, and I think there's more time to ask those questions. I think a better use would be to in my comments here, and if you guys want to ask 15 more minutes of questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
So you're ceding your time?
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Viso, you can reset the clock.
This is Deputy City Attorney Emily Wada. Again, for the record, I'm just going to let you know, Mr. Shockley, that the confines of today's agenda item number 4 is on cannabis taxation. So to the extent the commission has questions for you, it would be with respect to that issue only.
Sure.
Thank
I
you
understand.
very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bierman, I'm going to allow you to go first since you didn't get to ask questions in the last round.
Your 15 minutes start now.
I appreciate that. Commissioner Bierman, I guess I just had a question, and it was from the previous presentation. It was about talking about enforcement and, even going up to the captain level and hearing an explanation, if there is any, for lack of enforcement in the community for unlicensed dispensaries. And I'm just sort of wondering, I wanted to drill down on, what is the stated explanation? Is it we don't have the right tools, like our hands are tied? If we were to do enforcement, given the tools that we have tomorrow, they'll just return. So what's the point? We'll just put our resources elsewhere. Do you have a sense for that?
So the last point you made is one of the things they say. They say we'll go and we'll shut the store down, but then the city attorney will not file charges. The previous city attorney wouldn't file charges, and so they gave up on trying to spend resources on that. They said we have a lot of other stuff to do. This is going to require overtime. That's how they try to get more money. But they've gotten $5 million a year from cannabis taxes every year for the last 5 years. So they take the money, but then they blame the city attorney, which is, it makes sense. If nothing else is going to happen, they feel like it's a waste of the resources when they have to keep shutting the store down. But then further down the chain, there's nothing that gets enforced.
That's helpful. And, I recognize you all do a lot of advocacy here in front of us. City council, you said you've been here 5 times this week. I recognize that. So I'm just wondering, from your perspective, has there been any engagement with the current city attorney, and how has her practices differed from the previous city attorney? Has she been receptive to, conversations about?
Very much so. Yeah, she's stated that she's on the job and she's going to do enforcement, and she's gearing up to do it. And that's the reassurance we get from every city council member. Oh, okay, we hear your concerns. We know we messed up the program. We're going to do enforcement now. But the problem is we're not going to be here to benefit from it. That's why we need the tax relief. That's why we need forgiveness and those other things.
And I certainly think that's a really important point that you previously made, which is, you'd want to be here to have the benefit of the enforcement. It makes total sense. But I guess just a last question for me would be, is it your sense that folks are really serious about, changing the
We've given a list of 30 locations that surround our stores to the mayor's office, to our city council members' offices, and they haven't been raided or shut down. Actually, more have opened up by me. I have 5 or 6 dispensaries, illegal dispensaries within 3 blocks of me. There's a whole legal cannabis corridor on Central Avenue, just blocks away from my store, and they're eating me alive. and the mayor has the list. I had to put the list together. She has a $3.4 billion police department and didn't put a list together and do enforcement. I'm doing the best I can, but nothing has happened.
Appreciate that. A previous speaker made the point about transparency around enforcement and public facing information, so it isn't just sort of going into a void. And I certainly think that there's opportunities there for big improvements so that the public and legal operators have a sense for exactly what's happening with respect to illegal operators. And it's not simply a matter of having someone who on their own is uniquely proactive, having a senior lead officer that really cares about it. It's more systematically, everybody knows what's going on and there's accountability and transparency.
I can add a little more context too. I spoke to the city council president, Marquise Harris Dawson. He said that right now, the way the city does enforcement is each council district has a certain amount of raids that they can call in, essentially, but they're limited. And once you use them up, there's nothing else. There's no more resource for the council.
Whether the problem has been solved or not by that point.
Exactly.
That's helpful. Thank you.
This is President Mason. Question: how long before you think, if nothing is done, when will your doors close? That was from Madison.
Oh, okay. I'm on borrowed time. I should have closed my doors a year ago. And I thought that coming to city council and coming to the mayor, that they would act and do something. And, they've given us lip service to think that they were going to do something, and nothing has happened. And so I should have been closed my doors. And I only am open in the hope that, you all and other folks will take action.
I would concur. It is the same for me and all of our members.
I need you to state your name for the record because you're not recognized on this item.
Okay. Kika Keith. The same for me as well as all of our members. We were anticipating our meeting with the mayor and a follow-up meeting in January. That we were promised that there was going to be some sort of relief. She was talking to the city attorney to figure out how to get tax amnesty or a tax holiday, and then the fires happened. And we have no longer been a priority. Once the fires died down, and then it was a $1 billion in debt, and there has been no other conversations with us. And so we were all holding on with the anticipation that there was going to be policy put forth, an executive directive from the mayor is why we held on, because she understood. She's come down to my store. The city attorney has come down to my store, has seen what was happening. But because of what's happening in the city of Los Angeles, we have once again been forgotten and deprioritized, which is why we're here again.
Thank you. Vice President Nash?
I don't have anything further.
Okay.
It's Commissioner Farmy. Thank you. Appreciate you, Mr. Shockley. I just for clarification, so I'm clear. Going back to the recommendation under item number 2. This is a motion that's currently in committee for discussion. That, if I understand correctly, will potentially go to the.
I'm sorry. This is
This one. This is too.
This is Deputy City Attorney Emily Watt. Commissioner Farmy, could be.
Oh yeah, we're talking about the recommendation that they provided to us.
Are you referring to the recommendation that Kika and Madison made to you in a previous presentation, but not this exact presentation?
Correct.
Okay, then we'll just make that clear for the record.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It seems that we're blending presentations here, and I think it's confusing because the same 2 speakers are up, but this is technically a separate presentation.
Oh, okay. Well, okay.
I think I know what you're asking. So the second recommendation that we made in the previous comments in the previous presentation are addressing the councilwoman's motion. And yes, it's in government operations. There's a copy of the motion in the packet here. Yep. And so, what was your specific question on it? Was it about how our recommendation relates to that motion?
Yeah, it was. That's what I was getting.
Yeah. So she's asking for a study of what the impact would be. Essentially, how is it going to impact the city's budget is probably what they're going to analyze. And so we're asking the commission to say, while you guys are considering that, our opinion on it is that the tax rate for the industry should be reduced from 10% to 5%. You know, since they're considering anywhere between 8 and 1.5. And then also add in there that you guys would recommend that social equity receive tax credits that would make their effective tax rate the 1.5% that she's considering.
Got it. Thank you. That cleared up.
Okay, I have no other questions.
If I may, just one last comment.
You may
is
not
that-
because this is our time.
Gotcha. You got it.
Sorry. So at this time, we are closing out item 4. I want to go ahead and reopen item 3 and ask the commissioners if there are any requests for future agenda items based on the information you've heard here this evening.
This is Commissioner Bierman. I think I'd like to add an agenda item around this commission's ability to invite LAPD maybe to present to us, and the ability for us to ask questions. We could have sort of a direct line of communication around enforcement. I think it'd be, at least for me, very helpful. And I don't know when the last time we've had them, if ever, but I'd certainly benefit from an opportunity to ask some questions.
I thank you for that. We do have an open door policy. We have extended invitations and they have been accepted, but here we are. I'll say it that way. But so noted, and thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Farnby. Yeah, I want to thank, really give some appreciation to all of the operators today. I would like to kind of dive into, for the commission to dive into this tax situation. I mean, it was good that we heard from the operators, but I think it would be good for us to kind of, it was a lot of information, a lot to think about, some recommendation and ideas, to be able to kind of, have some space to kind of take this item that we're talking today about, the taxation piece, and kind of have it on a in a way that we can actually get to, because we've been listening today, where we can actually talk about it as a body, as a commission.
Thank you. Noted. This is President Mason. So I do have 2 requests. Number 1, we did move items 5 through 20 to our next commission meeting of July 17th. I would request that we be able to move items 5 through 20 from the 17th to the first meeting in August. I'm looking for the calendar. I'm sorry.
I believe it's August 7th.
So I'd like to hear about the feasibility of the ability to move those items to August 7th and that we use the meeting for July 17th for the commission, the commission to deliberate on what we've heard here today and to begin to formulate our letter of recommendation, which would be attached to the council file, which is council file. I don't know the council file number, but it would be attached to the council motion from Councilmember Padilla.
This is Deputy City Attorney Emily Wada. President Mason, I'd just like to know, I think you've already, to the Commission Assistant, Executive Assistant, I'm sorry, there's already been a vote to continue those items, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so then we would have to take a motion to reconsider, to
Okay.
reopen that matter. However, I would like to note for the record, I think that some of those matters have been continued several times, and there may be an issue with their state provisional license expiring soon. So, commission action on their local license is probably time sensitive at this point.
Understood. So then, not yet. Then my request will stand that commission deliberations on taxation and the formulation of and to start our formulation of recommendations be on the next commission agenda, period. And I'm going to, I guess, have to reopen item number 2, which is where the motion was made.
This is Vice President Nash. Before we do that, can I add something to the agenda items?
Sure.
So I just want to clarify that at the next meeting, the agenda will allow us to speak about all of the issues that were discussed today. And in fairness, there were really two main ones. It was taxation, and it was also enforcement against the illegal market. And, you know, they really are inseparable and go hand in hand. So I just want to make sure that we will be able to deliberate and make recommendations on both of those issues.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, this is Deputy City Attorney Wada. I'm somewhat just confused what's happening right here. Is there a pending motion right now to
So we are on item 3, and we have reopened item 3, and these are future agenda item requests. We are not at a pending motion. I have not closed item 3 to reopen item 2 to make a motion regarding the licenses that were moved to the 17th.
1 second, please. I'm sorry. So there's no you're not asking to reconsider the continuance of the annual license applications.
I have not reopened that item yet. No.
Thank you very much.
Are we clear on Commissioner Nash's request that on the next agenda he expanded my request that we also include enforcement? I want to make sure the department is clear. With that, I'm going to close agenda item number 3, and reopen agenda item number 2 for reconsideration. The original request was from the department to take items 5 through 20 out of order to continue those items to a future date. I need to find the agenda. One moment. In review of the agenda, item 5 was continued from May 15th. Item 6 was continued from June 5th. Item 7 was continued from June 5th. Items 8 through 20 are new to the commission agenda. So the motion is that we will hear items 5, item 6, item 7, and to the extent possible, continue items 8 through 20 to the August 5th agenda. I'm sorry, August 7th agenda.
Hi, this is Deputy City Attorney Emily Wada. I think first what we'd, just as a matter of procedure, if you'd like to revisit the continuances, can you first make a motion to withdraw the previous vote that
Okay.
was made to continue items 5 through whatever was for the annual license applications?
Not a problem.
Thank you.
This is President Mason. I move that we withdraw the previous vote to continue items 5 through 20 to the commission meeting of July 17th, 2025. Do I have a second?
Yeah, Commissioner Farby, a second.
Mr. Vizo, please call the roll.
President Mason,
Aye.
Commissioner Farnby, Commissioner Bierman,
Aye.
and Vice President Nash.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Just for transparency, what I'm attempting to do here is create space on the agenda to hear the critical licenses and to also allow us to discuss and deliberate taxation and enforcement. Any questions? Okay, thank you. So then the new motion is to only continue items 8 through 20 to our commission meeting of August 5th.
7.
Is it 5 or 7? Thank you. To our commission meeting of August 7th. And that items 5, 6, and 7 will be heard on the 17th of July. So there are two separate motions?
Yes.
Okay.
this is
First
Deputy
motion that we will continue items 5, 6, and 7 to the agenda of July 17th. Is there a second?
This is Commissioner Farby, a second.
Thank you, Mr. Vizo. Please call the roll.
President Mason,
Aye.
Commissioner Farnby,
Aye.
Commissioner Bierman,
Aye.
Vice President Nash.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Thank you. The next motion is that items 8 through 20 be continued to the commission meeting of August 7th, 2025.
This is Commissioner Farby, a second.
Thank you, Mr. Vizo. Please call the roll.
President Mason,
Aye.
Commissioner Farnby,
Aye.
Commissioner Bierman,
Aye.
Vice President Nash.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Okay, thank you. I am now closing item 2. I just want to thank everyone for being here today, for being present, for being transparent, for being informative, and I look forward to the next meeting and the recommendations that come from that. With that being said, the time is 7:28 and this meeting